Madame Lagrafière.
Your worship, all
Madam City Clerk.
assistant devices are available at the entrance of the council chambers. Members of the public have the right to address city council in the official language of their choice. Meetings are also broadcast live on both official languages on the city's YouTube channel, accessible via moncton.ca, and will also be aired at 9 p.m. this evening on rogerstv.com. Individuals who have registered with the city clerk's office at least 7 days prior to the meeting agenda deadline will be allocated 5 minutes to deliver their presentations. All other public presentations will be allotted 2 minutes. 1 minute warning will be provided to indicate the time remaining. An important reminder to all presenters, city staff, and council members are expected to conduct themselves respectfully at all times. Disparaging remarks, offensive language, or profane expressions directed towards council, staff, or members of the public will not be permitted. Any breach of this code of conduct may result in the presenter being directed to leave the council chambers at the discretion of the chair. Toutes les séances publiques du Conseil municipal de Moncton sont traduites.
All public meetings of Moncton City Council are simultaneously translated, and hearing assistance devices are available at the entrance to council chambers. Members of the public have the right to address City Council in the official language of their choice. Meetings are broadcast live in both official languages on the City of Moncton's YouTube channel, accessible via moncton.ca, and will also be aired at 9 p.m. this evening on rogerstv.com. Individuals who have registered with the city clerk's office at least 7 days prior to the meeting agenda deadline will be allocated 5 minutes to deliver their presentation. All other public presenters will be allotted 2 minutes. At 1 minute, warning will be provided to indicate the time remaining. Important reminder, all presenters, city staff, and council members are expected to conduct themselves respectfully at all times. Disparaging remarks, offensive language, or profane expressions directed to council staff or members of the public will not be permitted. Any breach of this code of conduct may result in the presenter being directed to leave the council chambers at the discretion of the chair. Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Are there any changes to be made to the agenda? There are none.
Donc, any questions on the agenda? Non. Donc, so we will go to a manual vote. Donc, ceux qui sont en faveur, s'il vous plaît. Bon, merci. Adopté à l'unanimité.
Those in favor, please raise your hands. It is passed unanimously. Is there any conflict of interest? There is no minutes to be adopted tonight. So the next item on the agenda is public presentations. Tonight we have one presentation.
Susan Trites is here to provide that. I was not informed of a 2-minute.
Bonsoir, Susan.
Could you press the...
Good evening, Susan.
Good afternoon, Madam the Mayor and Council. As a New Brunswick representative for the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem Canada team, it is my honor and my privilege to be a voice for the Jewish community and for the nation of Israel. I come today to bring awareness to Monctonians that this week, November 3rd to the 7th, is the 22nd annual Holocaust Education Week. The Atlantic Jewish Council has outlined their Holocaust education programs for the general public, for students, and for educators. The program is only available in Halifax. However, there is an online live stream available on Tuesday at 6:30 on Holocaust education, memory, meaning, and contemporary anti-Semitism. People can find out about this week's program by going to holocausteducation.ca. As well, there is an exhibit starting this Thursday until the 26th of the month on the St. Louis Ship of Fate. This exhibit is a partnership between the Atlantic Jewish Council and the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic. Prime Minister Trudeau issued almost 7 years ago today in Parliament a long overdue apology to the Jewish refugees, as well as to the Jewish communities in Canada for our government's refusing to allow the ship to dock in 1939, which forced it to return to Europe, where the campaign of genocide against the Jews was started, thus launching the Holocaust. This is a time and place that Francis Weil, here tonight, knows all too well. I was recently in Israel and took a group to the Holocaust Museum, many of them for the first time. It is just so stunning to see that, like, the Holocaust happened in relatively modern times, and yet we see the rise of anti-Semitism around the world today since October 7th, too often on college and university campuses, October 7th being the deadliest day for the Jewish people in the nation of Israel. Just 2 days ago, a group of Monctonians were gathered here on city grounds, blaring out of a bullhorn, "From the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free." Another very important reason why Holocaust Education Week is vital, so people understand what that statement means for the Jewish people and for the nation of Israel in 2025. The Office of the Special Envoy for Preserving Holocaust Remembrance and Combating Anti-Semitism has the following statement on their website. The number of anti-Semitic incidents in Canada has greatly increased in the past year and a half. Many Jews feel unsafe and need to be reassured. It is important for a non-Jewish person to recognize why we stand against anti-Semitism in our day. I stand in solidarity with that statement today. I, along with 4 other New Brunswickers, 3 being Monctonians, were privileged to be in Israel on October 13th, the day the last 20 living hostages came home to their beloved Israel in one day. We were all in the hostage square where Israelis were gathered, where a helicopter carrying each hostage with their loved ones flew over the square. And they were hollering out of the loudspeakers, "Welcome home." And they mentioned their name, welcoming them back after 2 very long years in captivity, most having spent the lion's share of that captivity in a dark tunnel. Last week, Time magazine put Eli Sharabi, an Israeli hostage who survived 491 days in Hamas captivity, on their cover to let him tell his story. He writes about crawling through dark tunnels, months without sunlight or clean water, whispering Shabbat Shalom into the black, just to remember he was still human. Let that sink in. That day, October 13th, it was epic. It was historic. It was an honor to have witnessed that moment alongside Israelis after praying daily with ICJ online since October 7, 2023, for the return of the hostages. We prayed for them somehow to feel comfort and God's presence in those tunnels. And now so many are now testifying of encountering God's comfort in the darkest dungeons. So finally, you will see City Hall tonight lit in blue in recognition for Holocaust Remembrance Week. And I thank the city for that.
Merci, Susan.
Next is administration presentations. Moncton Fire Department 150th anniversary. Conrad Landry is here.
Bonsoir, Monsieur Landry.
Bonsoir, Madame la mairesse adjointe.
Good evening, Mr. Landry. Good evening, Madam, Your Worship.
Fire Department was created So we wanted to mention that and share that our history a little bit. So I have Lieutenant Robert Cormier that's going to share a little bit of our history, but also a reminder that Resurgo Place has had a special display of firefighter artifacts, and there's some games for younger kids, and it's going till the end of November. We are having our banquet on Saturday night, inviting all retirees and volunteers and firefighters and current firefighters. And as you exit City Hall, City Chamber Council tonight, there's a little display, some antique and some memorables about the fire department. So I'm going to pass the mic to Lieutenant Robert Cormier to talk a little bit about our history.
Thank you, Chief Landry. Your Worship, members of council, members of the public, it's a great honor for me to be before you today to speak about our 150th anniversary of the Moncton Fire Department. 2025 marks the 150th anniversary of the Moncton Fire Department. Founded on 9 November 1875, the Moncton Fire Department has gone from a small volunteer and salvage corps to a fully career fire department and a staff of 124 members, including full-time fire prevention and training divisions. In the 1870s, Moncton was an import hub city for the region. Historically a shipbuilding community on the Petitcodiac River, the late 19th century saw growth in the area of Moncton, became an important railroad hub as well, as the Intercolonial Railway chose Moncton as its headquarters. After a number of significant fires in the city, including the loss of his own home and business in 1855, Ezekiel Taylor recognized the need for an organized fire brigade for the town, and a first-class hand-engine hose reel were purchased for the newly formed fire department. Mr. Taylor was appointed to the role of Moncton's first fire warden. By the turn of the 20th century, the Moncton Fire Department had grown significantly, both in size and technology. An article written in the local newspaper at the time listed the inventory as 1 steam engine, 1 hook and ladder truck, 3 hose reels, and 1 salvage wagon. These units were by this time housed in 3 fire stations and staffed by 59 officers and men. Moncton grew rapidly during the early part of the 20th century, and in 1918, the ICR was merged with other railways, and Moncton became the eastern terminus of the newly formed CN Railway. The Second World War saw a large Canadian Army supply base built near the railway yards, and the city's population had grown to nearly 30,000. In 1948, the paid members of the Moncton Fire Department organized and formed Local 999 of the International Association of Firefighters. At that time, the fire department were housed in 4 fire stations across the city, and inventory records of the time show 4 pumpers, 1 ladder truck, and a staff of 25 permanent firefighters, supplemented by 65 volunteer firefighters. Historically a composite firefighting force, the city continued to supplement the paid firefighters with volunteers, and by 1974, there were a minimum of 21 firefighters on each shift, supplemented by a volunteer corps of nearly 100 members to assist at larger incidents. 1974 saw the department service a population of 46,000 and responding to approximately 1,200 calls for service as the years wore on. Later on, the number of volunteers dwindled, and in 2014, the volunteer corps was disbanded, leaving the city to be protected by 21 firefighters at any time. Until 2025, these staffing levels remained unchanged. Currently led by Chief Conrad Landry, the department now operates out of 5 stations located within the city of Moncton, equipped with 3 engine companies, 2 truck companies, and 1 rescue company, also with 2 tankers and several spare specialized support vehicles. It responds to all calls within the city of Moncton and surrounding local service district. An all hazards agency, we are trained and equipped to respond to fires, EMS, motor vehicle collisions, water and ice emergencies, high angle and technical rescue, and also provide heavy hazardous materials response to the southeast part of the province of New Brunswick. Additionally, it has a long-standing mutual aid agreement with surrounding departments, including the town of Riverview, City of Dieppe, and rural communities of Salisbury, St. Paul, Shediac, and frequently called to assist these communities with fire suppression and technical rescues. Minimum staffing for the department is now 22 firefighters, an increase of 1 firefighter per shift over the 2025 numbers. During 2024, the Moncton Fire Department responded to a record 9,134 calls for service, which represents 15,336 individual unit responses, up an increase of 17.5% over 2023's call volume and 31% increase from 2022. As the city and surrounding areas have seen significant growth over the past few years, so has the necessity for the Moncton Fire Department to be able to cover a growing number of calls requiring highly technical responses. In addition, as the city's growing, we are seeing more calls for service and more specialized calls for service. So a great part of our history is the city's growing, and with it, so is the fire department. So it's a very good time and a very exciting time to be a part of this department and organization. So I'd like to thank you for your attention and have a great day.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Landry, Monsieur Cormier. Other questions?
Thank you so much, Mr. Landry and Mr. Cormier. Councillor Richard. Thank you, Your Worship.
Anything on the weekend. I can't make those celebrations. I'm going to thank you. I'm going to ask you to thank all the members. I'm going to thank you again when I saw you spring into action at a Wildcats game recently. Are you aware of this, Chief? So the quickness, you and your team went and assisted a player that was down in the opponent's bench. I know it meant a lot to me, it meant a lot to them. They felt safe, they felt well. So thank you, but please thank everyone on your team.
Thank you very much, Councillor Richard. I will certainly pass along your thanks to the members of the department.
Merci.
Merci. Il n'y a pas d'autres questions. Donc, Madame Lagracière.
Thank you very much. There's no other questions. So, Madam City Clerk.
Budget, and Don Moore, the CRPA Chair, and Jean Gauguin, Finance Chair, are here to provide their budget.
Bonsoir, Monsieur Moore et Monsieur Gauvin. Merci.
Good evening, sirs.
Good evening, Your Worship, and members of council. I don't know how to move the slides. Swipe left, right. Okay, there we go. I represent as chair of the Kodiak Regional Policing Authority, and this evening we want to touch upon our budget for 2026, our proposed budget, and you have the details in front of you. What have we done so far this year? Well, last year we put together a budget for 2025 that included 17 new regular members. At this moment, we've staffed 14 of those roles, and we should have all 17 in place by the end of the year. We did a review of a workload analysis that was a recommendation from the Perivale and Taylor report, commissioned by the 3 municipalities to do such, and that also included an operational plan. We also did a selection of key performance indicators that was done part of that PWC operational plan so that we could measure the success going forward for our service provider of policing, Kodiak RCMP. We also did a number of engagement sessions in the community hosted by Kodiak RCMP, where we wanted to listen to community members in all 3 municipalities so we could get feedback on trying to figure out what is the police force that our community desires in the future. Our operational plan that I mentioned a few minutes ago, this took into account population growth. It took into account the impact and performance of police services. It also took into account social issues in our community and also the public demand for our police service. In 2025, the 17 new police officers are planned to be in these different units. They'll be fully operational of that for next year. But for our budget for next year, our plan is to have 10 in a traffic unit, a dedicated traffic unit for this community, something that so many people are asking for almost daily, but also 5 police officers to administer our cell and court services section. I will pass it over to Jean Gauguin, our treasurer for the CRPA, to go through some of the highlights as it relates directly to the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. So if we look at the dollars and cents, what's driving this increase in budget, we have a pie chart that'll show the better picture after the fact, but it's really important to denote that we're here for a budget, not just about 15 officers. There's also a lot of costs that are driving this increase of $9 million that aren't driven by the increase in officers. So if we look at the significant increases, we see the new detachment, right? So if we look at a budget increase of roughly 16%, we see this driving 4.3%. But I'll skip to the next slide because this perhaps gives a better depiction of what's driving these variances, right? So this pie chart, again, we see the municipal portion jumping up significantly, the purple, 4.54%. This is going to be the new building that'll be up and running soon enough. So we see that notwithstanding the increase in officers, this is a big increase. Salary increases with the new agreements with the detachment, driving a significant increase as well. So roughly 1.5 million, close to 3%. If we look at other indirect costs and service level agreements, you add those two together, so the orange and the light blue. So again, that's roughly 5% increase. But if we look at the 15 new members, it's important to denote that this is the fiscal increase for this year's budget of 2.2% of the 16.5% is $1.2 million. If we would net this out of the full complement of these new 15 officers, it would be roughly $4 million. But it's really important to slow down on this. This request for new officers is a small piece of this pie. And it's important to note that this big increase is driven by a lot of variable costs that are already in place. And with that, I will pass it back to you.
Thank you very much, Jean. Our key priorities for next year, establishing a fit for purpose of a workforce, measuring crime with KPIs and other data points. So, we want to increase our solvability rates. We want to tackle open air drug use. We want to make sure that we're having stronger engagement, more community connections in our region, and also a traffic unit for next year. This is a pie chart just representing the breakdown of the $9.5 million between the increase to the 3 municipalities. So we have roughly $65 million budget broken out. And so the City of Moncton's portion, 70.4%, and that's $45 million for policing in this community. For Moncton, I will open it up to questions and I'll have a statement at the end as well.
Merci beaucoup, Conseiller Kingston.
Thank you, Madame Adès. Thank you, Don. Welcome to.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kingston.
As an elected official, you know, we have questions. I have questions, obviously, from recent developments on the board. I guess maybe Don, just expand a little more on the rationale on the 15. You touched on it on your presentation, but in lieu of the Kodiak RCMP recommendation back in July for 4 based on COP to POP, and you know, the PWC work plan really is a kind of a mystery document. I guess you need security clearance to view that doc. I'm not sure. We haven't seen it, obviously. So, you know, without a mutual agreement on KPIs from the 3 municipalities, although Moncton, you're still coming this week to budget presentations, just kind of, let's talk about the rationale behind the 15 proposed and based on.
For sure.
Yeah.
So 10 members for a traffic division, 5 for cell block or court services. I actually got a statement earlier today from Kodiak RCMP, just to be able to describe what that'll do for our community. I'll read this. The need for a dedicated traffic enforcement unit has been a pressure for Kodiak Regional RCMP for several years. All three municipalities and their residents have repeatedly indicated that traffic safety is a serious concern. With the continued growth of the tri-community, there are three municipalities, we have continued to see a tremendous increase in vehicle traffic, congestion, and collisions. By having a dedicated traffic service unit, we could deploy every day on 7 days a week, on a 7-day-a-week basis, and be both visible on a proactive basis and deploy traffic service members to collisions and other traffic-related occurrences. By investing in a traffic unit, this would alleviate the burden of traffic-related occurrences on the regular patrol members. These members could therefore focus on other incidents and then add an extra level of rigor to criminal investigations, follow-ups, and also increase our overall visibility in the community. Kodiak usually issues between 300 to 500 traffic tickets per month on a regular basis. Despite being busy with hundreds of other calls for service per day. This results in the tactical traffic enforcement unit that some of you have heard about in the past that comes from J Division. And they'll come in for usually a couple days a month and usually do about 600 plus traffic tickets over a couple day periods. And this reality, no, sorry, I missed that sentence. Our estimates show that a dedicated traffic enforcement team would issue approximately 1,500 traffic tickets per month or more, depending on if they're able to get around the community as much as we'd like them to. A dedicated team could also be proactively deployed to problem areas and address specific societal concerns. The other five members, as previously reported, we process a very large number of prisoners in our cell block and also lay a tremendous amount of criminal charges each year, about 5,000 to 10,000 per year. The new 5 members would be assigned to cell block operations, as well as court file preparation, transportation of detained persons from the Kodiak Police Station to the provincial court, and also assume court document service to witnesses and offenders alike. By having a dedicated presence in our cell block, we will be able to add a level of oversight to safety and security in the cells, as well as ensure safety to our prisoners. In the last 6 years at Kodiak, we have had 3 instances where a subject has actually escaped custody from our cells, and we have unfortunately encountered 1 in custody death. Some of these incidents are related to the current state of our building and the setup in our current cell block. With the move to the new police station, the new detachment planned for in the next month or 2, this request is both timely and necessary. I hope that answers your question.
Well, in part, Don, we're not questioning the benefits of 15 potential new officers. Obviously, it's how we're getting there and the
Yep.
process to get there. 15 is the recommendation only. I was looking for more, maybe shed your own opinion on the letter from the 3 municipalities requesting additional data backup, additional hirings, which has not been forthcoming in its entirety. So that's where I'm going with this, and I'll certainly turn the questions over to council colleagues, but thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Don. Merci, Madame Ades. Thank you.
Thank you.
Merci, Conseiller Kingston, Conseiller.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Kingston. Councillor Crossman.
Quite a few questions for you this evening,
Excellent.
if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So one thing I want you to understand is all the comments that I make tonight, I'm concerned about the public safety of every citizen across the city, be it the citizen, be it a child, be it a business, or be it our RCMP members.
Mhm.
That's where I'm going to start out with, okay? So just so the water's clear.
For sure.
Okay, good. Thank you. Councillor Kingston touched on it briefly. All tri-councils passed a motion saying to the CRPA that they had to come back to us with data to support any new hiring of officers moving forward. Where is that data today?
So we have some, excuse me, we have started collecting KPI data, but for these new 15 officers, there wouldn't be any data for that because we don't have a traffic division yet. We don't have a unit that does the cell block stuff. We would need to have them in place before we could actually capture data on their effectiveness.
But I'm pretty sure the motion passed by the tri-councils was to make sure that the officers that were being hired had an effect on safety throughout the city, driving down the crime numbers, driving down all this. But we don't have that information today, right? So you're telling me.
That is correct.
Okay, good. So as I look, and maybe this question, I'll go to the CAO first. March the 12th, there was a letter signed by the 3 CAOs of the city, of the Tri-Cities. And the last phrase says, Executive Insight Committee, no later than 6 months prior to the start of the budget, be presented with the initial budget. So that would have given you indications that you would have had to come to the Executive Committee to present your budget 6 months prior to when, Mr. CAO? Would that be 6 months prior to council's discussion on budget?
Yes, it would be 6 months before the budget would be presented.
So 6 months before November. And was that carried out, Mr. CAO?
No, it was not. We attempted a couple of times to get some dates that worked for all parties. That didn't work out, so the Executive Insight Committee did not meet.
Okay, good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Mr. Moore, when somebody is appointed to the CRPA, what happens? Do they have a manual? Do they read a manual? Are they just appointed by the mayor of Moncton or the mayor of Riverview or the mayor of Dieppe to sit on the CRPA? What happens? They come to a meeting, they're sworn in,
There is a swearing in process, and we provide them information on what's in the Police Act, what's in the Memorandum of Understanding, policies and procedures. We're in the middle right now of revamping our orientation manual.
and they're challenged to read that and they're challenged to engage with the other board members so that they understand their role on the CRPA?
I would say generally, yes.
Okay, and you enforce that as chair? Who would enforce that?
Well, we just require it. I don't think the word enforce is,
Okay,
okay.
okay, so we'll move on. In your budget presentation this evening,
Mhm.
There's a line item on here that says, and it's this page, budget highlights.
Okay.
It was quickly gone over by the CAO. So in there, it says adding 11 new members, and the total is 1.268 million to 2.2%. But further down in that slide, it also talks about SLAs. And can somebody clarify what an SLA is? Because that's another 2.87% or 1.6 million. And I'm pretty sure an SLA is a staff member.
You want to, I'll pass this over to Charles Savoy. Yeah, these are legal agreements that we have with J Division to provide services for our policing.
So these are officers, is that correct? Because according
They're
to
not
this.
housed in Kodiak, but generally speaking, they're not housed in Kodiak, but they're services we pay for as we use them. Is that correct? Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out why we have one line that says two, and I can ask these questions tomorrow if you wish, but we've got CRPA here tonight, it's their budget. So the line is 2.2%, first line, 1.7 million. It's a slide or two before that, I believe. And then further down, it's SLAs at there you go. SLAs at 2.87%, 1.6 million.
So the SLAs would be legal agreements with J Division to provide services. In this particular case, we're talking about the major crime unit. So sometimes we pay for full units. We have no members inside of Kodiak that would participate in them. We just pay for that particular service. In the case of the MCU unit, it was half and half. Some of them were actually housed and they were inside the budget. It will no longer be the case in the year going, in next year. So that those MCU units, we're just going to pay via an SLA agreement instead of having people here.
So would I be, and correct me if I'm wrong, do I understand this correctly? An SLA agreement means there are officers that are available and that would come here, so they would be accounted for as part of staffing, right? Because we're paying for them.
They're not inside of the complement of Kodiak. They're just a service that we can get from J Division when required.
So it's a $3 million, when you combine the two, because we're talking officers. So I want the total amount of officers. It's $3 million. It's not the 1.2 million
There's
that
par-
we're seeing.
So there's 15 new members. 4 of them were actually transferring out of Kodiak of our complement. That's the new SLA. SLAs go up every year because we have multiple SLAs for a variety of different services. The one that we're talking about here is the MCU, and there's 4 members that were inside the complement last year. We're removing them. So actually the complement's going down. But as far as the amount of money that we're paying is the same, because now we're going to pay it through an SLA instead of directly to 4 members.
Which in this slide shows an SLA is 1.6 million. So it's in addition to the 1.2 million. Just make sure I'm clear on that, right?
Yeah, those aren't the slides. I guess we can get back to it more, but as far as an SLA, these aren't Kodiak slides. These are,
They're not Kodiak file. Okay, good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Mr. Moore, do you happen to know what the cost was for the 17 officers in the 2025 budget? Even though I think your numbers say we're only at 10 or something? Or
We have 14 of them so far.
14?
And contractually, they have 12 months to staff them. And so the official requests didn't go out until January. Do we have, Debbie or Chuck, what the cost was for the 17? And let's be clear, it's a phased in approach throughout the year. So it doesn't necessarily represent the total cost. So the total cost will be next year for those 17.
So the 14 that you mentioned this evening, are they fully operational right now?
I'm looking, yes, no, but
Yes,
they're,
I need a yes or no, just.
that we have them. But I'll get
No,
our
I guess my
superintendent.
question was, are they fully operational? And remember, we got to keep the public safe here. We're talking about keeping the public safe, businesses safe, and our CMP members safe. Are they fully operational currently?
Bon après-midi, Madame la mairesse, par intérêt, members of council. Councilor Crossman, so there's 14 positions filled. Excuse me, some have arrived, some are on the way, transfers, what have you. So specifically your question is, fully operational, you mean, are they actually doing work right now as we speak today?
Yeah, I'm not talking about coming to Moncton, getting set up, you
Yeah.
know, having to find a place to live
Sure.
and getting all this fun stuff. Are they fully operational?
So fully operational for me means somebody that's fit for duty.
Right.
All of them are, yes.
Are all of them on the street, walking in through that station on a daily basis?
No,
No. Okay, good. Thank you. I appreciate your honesty.
no problem.
Mr. Moore, I'll close on this. It seems that I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how the return on investment is working right now through the CRPA board. And I'll give you an example. In 2020, the budget for the CRPA total budget value was 34 million. And today, your proposed 2026 budget puts us in at $66.5 million. That's a 200% increase. Now, you've got a puzzled look on your face.
I think the Moncton portion was 34 million.
Okay, sure. Well, that's even better. Great. I'm glad you're having, that's okay. I'm all right with that.
So it'd be a higher number.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you said it. Perfect. So 200% increase. We don't have KPIs that are showing proven data. I have documents here from the RCMP that sent out crime rate trends. This was actually hosted at a minister's meeting, showing that the crime rate's not improving. It's steady, but it's not improving dramatically. So I'm just trying to have a hard time to understand how we have a 200% increase in CRPA's budget. The city of Moncton's had a 58% budget increase in that same time frame. And we don't see return on investment. We're not seeing it from the CRPA level as far as giving this council or any council the information that they need to keep the citizens safe. So how can you help me out on that?
Real simple. the workload analysis that was performed by PwC last year said we were short 46 police officers last year. Our community has even grown since then. Until we get to where we're supposed to be, it's the belief of the CRPA that we are not going to be able to prove solvability rates and other things to prove why we need these numbers so that we can keep the community safe.
See, that's where we're going to agree to disagree. I'll put it to you safe that way. We have an RCMP superintendent telling council and telling the public that 4 members are necessary. Councillor Kingston talked about it this evening. The CRPA numbers are totally different, and they're based on this one report that you're talking about. Have you seen the RCMP's operational plan?
We've seen a modified version that our security clearance is allowed to see.
And you set your budget based on the modified version of the CRPA's operational plan?
And I should be clear, a slimmed down version, not a modified, like.
Okay, I'm just using your words. You said
Okay,
modified.
yeah, and I apologize. I used the wrong word. So we saw a light version of it that was allowed for our security clearance. And then there was a number in there, 46 police officers that we were short a year ago when that was done. That was the workload analysis.
So where do you think the disconnect is between your numbers and that light version that you saw of the operational plan and what our superintendent, who represents the entire RCMP workforce, is telling us and the public 4 is mandatory?
Well, we've heard from the superintendent, that our officer in charge, that he still needs the 46. The 4 was in response to could we just do that for this year in response to the letter that was sent in May. I don't want to really speak any more than that. So on that topic, unless the superintendent has anything. No.
I mean, I can read you what he said. It's
Yep.
it's right there. It's not a problem. It's, recommendation, population growth, right? Responsible fiscal planning. This continues this way. It's not fiscal planning when we're jumping this much, 200%. Ongoing of integration of 2025 officers, which we just clarified through the superintendent. So I have a hard time, Mr. Moore, trying to understand this. It seems like there's a lot of moving pieces, which we know there is. There's no question. But I just hope that at the end of the day, that the biggest thing that we're looking at and CRP is looking at is public safety, the safety of the citizens, the safety of the businesses, and the safety of our police officers. They put their neck on the line every day. They're going into situations that they have no idea about until they get there, right? So I just can't understand how we cannot have KPIs. We have a motion from the tri-councils, and you haven't seen the full operational plan, but yet we're basing it on a partial portion of the plan when we know that the right clearance is sitting over there in the corner who's suggesting these officers. So I thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Merci, Conseiller Crossman, Conseiller Léger.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse, and thanks for being here. I guess I'll start. I don't feel that we're going to accomplish much being confrontational, but I just want to at least be factual. I guess I'll start by making a comment, having been on the Kodiak Regional Policing Authority for a number of years and knowing in its inner workings and so on, somewhat puzzled at the disconnect at the moment with respect to what we're seeing play out between the 3 municipalities. I understand that the 3 municipalities cannot direct the CRPA. I think what we're hoping, though, is that there be some collaboration. And that was really the intent of the 3 municipalities stepping out and saying, we are accountable as elected individuals to the residents who pay taxes. And we, as the tri-community, all councils, agreed on the 17 last year. I don't think we disagree on the additional officers in the future. What we disagree on is we want to know the impact that the 17 officers have before moving forward on any additional officers. So I think where I find this very strange because, I'd like to read this into the record because I find it extremely puzzling that your recommendation of the CRPA is 15 or 0. It's either 15 officers, that's it. There's no other option. 0 meaning if the municipality says no to your 15 officer request, then I guess we're at an impasse. And from that point on, it would go to the Minister of Public Safety. So, and I want
Minister of Local Government.
or local government.
Yes.
I want to thank, though, the superintendent for really being one that could address at least the concerns in the community and seeing where the RCMP, it's their operational plan, and seeing where the role of the CRPA is an oversight body. It's not a get in the weeds function. It's really understanding what the RCMP are indicating are their needs. And once you have that understanding, then moving forward with it. So, and that's always been the way that it has worked. In the past, even my time before I became a member of the CRPA, there had been some issues at times where the RCMP felt that maybe by reducing number of officers, they could integrate different roles, and maybe that would help with respect to the municipality meeting its goals. That changed when when at one point in time, the city had grown, much like the fire department has grown, and we're going to see that there's a request for extra members of the fire department because our city has grown. And so I think everyone agrees that we, in our success of growth in the tri-community, that we need more officers. However, when the superintendent reflects on everything and writes the following, I think this is where I find there's a disconnect. So I'm going to read it into the record because of the fact that I don't know if it's ever, other than innuendos here and there, I'm just going to read what was written in response to the 3 municipalities indicating that all of us would like to see clear key performance indicators and what that impact of the 17 officers would be. So in response, Superintendent Jolette wrote, "We are writing to provide an update on the Kodiak Regional RCMP staffing recommendation to the CRPA for the 2026 budget." And so now they say given that the Kodiak RCMP staffing recommendation differs from the CRPA directive related to staffing for the 2026 budget, i.e. the 15, we felt it was important to inform partners of our rationale behind our staffing recommendation. Background, staffing need versus staffing recommendation. In alignment with the operational plan created in 2024, the Kodiak Regional Policing Authority identified a need for 17 regular members for 2025, followed by 15 in 2026 to meet anticipated demand and community growth. These projections were based on early planning assumptions and existing data and reflect a long-term vision for a fit-for-purpose workforce. However, after careful consideration of current conditions and available data, Kodiak RCMP is recommending a more measured increase of 4 additional officers in 2026. This revised recommendation balances strategic growth with operational and fiscal realities and is rooted in the following key considerations. Rationale for recommending the 4 officers: A, population growth as the only verifiable metric. To date, the only fully available and reliable KPI is population growth, which saw a 5% increase in 2024. While we anticipate more comprehensive KPI data for 2026, we must base our 2026 request on what is currently measurable. The 3 municipalities have also passed motions signaling the need for a business case when requesting additional staff going forward. The Kodiak RCMP fully supports this concept and recognizes that data required for a business case related to a 2026 staffing increase is not available, other than population growth. Responsible fiscal planning. This approach allows us to defer significant budgetary increases during a time when municipalities are facing economic pressures, while still maintaining service levels aligned with community growth. Ongoing integration of the 2025 officers. Kodiak RCMP is currently in the process, as we've heard tonight, of integrating 17 new officers in 2025, a considerable undertaking that requires adjustments to supervision, fleet capacity, and operational deployment. Introducing too many additional members too soon could outpace our ability to fully support and enable these new resources. Commitment to data-driven growth. By aligning future staffing requests with verified KPI results, we position Kodiak as a transparent and results-oriented organization that prioritizes accountability and long-term planning. This approach has been supported by all 3 municipalities and endorsed as part of the annual business case process. While our operational plan initially projected a more aggressive growth trajectory, this year's approach reflects a strategic step forward, not a retreat. Our intent is to build sustainability, ensure proper support structures are in place, demonstrate the tangible impact of recent investments before pursuing the next phase of expansion, allowing for innovation to forge a more effective and efficient police service. The Kodiak RCMP remains fully committed to supporting our regular members and municipal staff, strengthening our communities, and advancing public safety through thoughtful, transparent planning. And I want to thank, again, Superintendent for expressing that. And so then now I'm puzzled by why is it that the oversight body knows better operationally than the RCMP? And this is where, at least for me and others, I believe, will struggle. And yet, this never made it as an option. Your option is moving forward with the 15. And so I'm puzzled. And so I look at that and I guess I question maybe some of the process. The other piece that I would make, you commented earlier that the traffic division would alleviate some of the current conditions that we're seeing on our streets. What I would say is before we move forward with the traffic division, perhaps the CRPA could focus on where the revenue for the tickets is going, because all of the revenue from the traffic division will go back to the province of New Brunswick. And it would be extremely helpful if we shared some of that revenue so that we could reinvest in what our officers are doing to try to make our streets safe and offset some of the expenses that we have. I guess I'll end on just saying that, you know, I'm puzzled by this, and I don't know where we find common ground. I would hope that moving forward in the future, there would be more collaboration. We're not the enemy. City councils, people who are elected, are not the enemy for the Kodiak Regional Policing Authority, and I don't think you are either. I think everybody is working very hard to increase public safety, you know, and make sure that we have a vibrant community. So hopefully we would see more of that in the future. And being able to agree to disagree, but able to speak to one another goes a long way in terms of initiating future collaboration. So on that note, Madame la Mairesse, c'est tout.
Merci beaucoup, Conseiller Légère. Did you wish to reply to Conseiller Légere's
I
comment?
don't really have a comment on it, but I appreciate his comments.
Okay, thank you. Conseiller Bourgeois.
Just a moment. Do I need French translation, Councillor? Do I need French translation to?
I have no questions for you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Merci, Madame la Maire. Merci, Monsieur Moore, Monsieur Gauguin.
Thank you, Madam Worship. Thank you, Mr. Moore, and thank you for being here this evening to present your budget. I do have 2 questions. The first one would be for Jacques Doucette. In your document, in your presentation, you show 3 alternatives that we are going to be discussing tomorrow or the day after tomorrow during our budget deliberations. Is that correct? Okay. Now, the third alternative is if we accept the CRPA submission and we add 15 new members, your total would give about $46,900,000. I'm rounding off a little bit. $46,976,601. Whereas if we don't add any resources, it would be $47,436. That's what we see in the council report form. Now, if I do my own calculations, between 0 and 15 additional members, it would give 1,830,000 approximately. Divided by 15 members is 120,000 per member. In the past, we always said that one RCMP member would cost us between $160,000 and $175,000 when you take and consider all of the administrative costs, the training, everything that goes to Fredericton. Are my calculations that are wrong, or is it new amount? I don't need an answer right now. If you have one, great. But if not, when we have the budget deliberations. No, Councillor Bourgeois. The way the budget is presented here, the numbers are correct. It's just the figures before the surplus or the deficit of 2 years ago. But what happens is that new members, well, we're not reflecting the full cost of the new members for a full year. For example, tomorrow, we're going to present a budget where we might say, okay, we're going to hire 10 new people, but if we only hire them in November or December, they're not going to work. We can't have the full year's costs there. And that's why the amount is somewhat less than what you would expect. For example, in 2025, the Tri-Community approved 17 new members, but the cost reflected is in the budget is only for 7 members. Oh, well, that was my second question. The surplus that we had, the surplus that we already had a year ago we had accepted 17 new members, but they weren't hired. They weren't all hired so far, right? As if I understand correctly, most of them were hired along the way. So perhaps half of the budget was that was used for the additional officers. Now, where's that surplus? Where does that go? That comes back to the city? What's left over? Well, the way the easiest way for me to explain it is that last year the budget absorbed 7 members. This year in 2026, automatically we're going to absorb the rest, the remaining 10 members. So it doesn't generate a surplus or a deficit. I mean, there might be a little bit of one, but if we had budgeted 17 members last year, that would have given a surplus. But because we only budgeted 7 members last year, that's not going to give the same surplus or the same deficit. I don't know where they are exactly in their figures currently, but if the police weren't asking for any new members, well, the easiest way to explain it is that the budget would go up by 10 members this year. Because we could budget it differently. We could say, okay, 17 members will cost this, but we recognize that they are not all going to be hired on January 1st, so there's going to be a credit. But the way we did it last year is also a correct way of doing it. It's just we only added the equivalent of 7 members to the budget. The remaining 10 members will be absorbed this year automatically because the members had been approved last year. Okay, well, it's not any clearer for me, but I'll come back to this tomorrow. So in your forecasts, what we had forecast for last year. Well, last year we had forecast a budget for 17 members, if I understand, in 2025. But we had budgeted 100% of the 17. No, we only budgeted for 7 members. Council approved 17 members, but only 7 were in the budget. Okay. Can we still have a forecast tomorrow until the end of the year? I mean, whatever the budget is, the 7, what is the amount of money that was budgeted And how much do we expect to have spent by the end of this year to see if there is a surplus or a deficit compared to the 7 members? Well, whatever the amount. Let's say that we had budgeted 5 million, we approved 5 million, 3 million, whatever it was. But for these 7 members or the 17, whatever, we budgeted a certain amount of money, right? A forecast, we projected that we would spend that by the end, a certain amount by the end of 2025. Did we spend it exactly? If we had budgeted 3 million, did we spend 3 million or was it 2.5 million? Well, with the new members, yeah, we should have something that's close, yeah. Yeah, but by what we will have spent by the end of December for the forecast year. Yes, okay, for tomorrow. It's there's no rush today. My second question for Councillor Kingston, that is representing us on the CRPA. In the papers, we've been reading in the last few months, we've seen a budget process at the CRPA that wasn't what I would call normal. One member from Riverview was excluded from voting on the budget, and there are other issues as well. Now, in your opinion and with your colleagues around the table, was the budget process followed, even if it is not normal compared to other years or because of certain events? Is the process still a good one, or are we right in going a little deeper to see if there are certain things that are more complicated than they should be? I don't know if you've understood me. I don't want to go too far into the details either. Thank you.
In-camera meetings were held according to the CRPA governance. Everything was done. We could have taken more time as a board to have discussions. In my opinion, we didn't take enough time to expand on all the budgetary items. And that's why we submitted 15 additional officers. We are very cognizant of the community letter about the increase in from 2020. And we agree on the recommendation to have a full discussion on the various budget motions. It was done quickly. So referring to everything that the deputy mayor and Councillor Crossman mentioned, my understanding is that the CRPA will have to come back in front of the Tri-Community Council without complying with the requirements that we put. I think our request was pretty clear, and I'm a bit confused by the process, and I'm a bit confused by the results. So hopefully we'll get more information tomorrow. I'd like to conclude with a comment to inform our citizens that we do have governance challenges. A few of them have been mentioned, but I'd like to go over them again. That's what Councillor Crossman mentioned. It was mentioned also in the Perryvale and Taylor report. We have issues with policing services governance, especially with the CRPA, for those of you who've had the opportunity to read the Perryvale and Taylor report. That's quite detailed. One of the major issues we have is that the city of Moncton, that spends millions of dollars on policing services, has absolutely no control over said policing services. There's a good reason for that. The Police Act, that's provincial legislation that gives the chief of police, whether it's the RCMP or a municipal force, discretion on what they call operations. operational issues. This notion is not defined in the legislation. But 3 years ago, council debated and had clearly expressed the need from citizens to have more RCMP officers to patrol the West End and downtown areas because that's the zones where there's the most crime. The superintendent had been was pretty straightforward at the time, and I thank him for that. And he told us that we could add $900,000 to hire 5 additional RCMP officers under specific conditions, but for operational reasons, we can do whatever we please in relation to the needs of the RCMP. The CRPA does not have any say on operational priorities. So I think we raised the budget by about $900,000, depending on pay and benefits for those 5 additional officers. And those 5 additional officers have not been assigned where we wanted. So as city council members, we provide the funds.
C'est le cas au niveau de la province.
But that's not the case with the province. So the budget process is odd. We pay 70% of the bill, more or less. And we have no say once the budget is approved, and even beforehand, we could say no, but we have no control over what policing services do or don't do. If we cannot agree on our governance issues, the 3 municipalities, and if they can't agree with the CRPA, the minister is called upon to intervene. So it seems to me that there's a missing piece here. I understand that somebody needs to be responsible for making a decision, but if that's the case, I hope the minister will side with the 3 municipalities rather than side with the CRPA. My understanding is that Dieppe and Riverview have rejected the CRPA's request and are in favor of no additions until we have the right figures from the CRPA. We mentioned an increasing demographic as well. There's 3 factors that determine which municipality provides what percentage of the budget. And our share increased because we have an increasing population. There's the 3rd factor, but I mentioned the first 2. So population increase, but also the number of offenses. It's one of the factors. And because we have a lot of social issues in Moncton, in comparison with Dieppe and Riverview, there's more offenses. So the more complaints there are, the higher the number of offenses and the more we'll have to pay for policing services. So we created kind of a vicious circle with those funding issues. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. And like Councillor Leger mentioned earlier, even if we added a traffic unit that's needed, but the RCMP already does it, but only on a sporadic basis. Sometimes they get support from the Fredericton services, but we pay for that. But the monies collected through fines does not go to the city. So that's a problem. We're not going to talk about that during the budget process. But I think sooner or later, I'd like to suggest or I'd like to request the city manager. I think the city manager, after 2 years in his functions, that there's an issue here. This needs to be addressed. This was identified in the Perryville and Taylor report. This was discussed by the council. I think there's a recommendation in the Perryville and Taylor report. We need to tackle the CRPA governance. I haven't seen any follow-up so far, so maybe it's been worked on in the background, but I think the Perryville report was issued 2 years ago, and we are seeing concrete examples of the limits of this governance framework, and we're having a hard time resolving decisions. I mean, they're complex issues and it's a complex governance structure. Thank you, Councillor Bourgeois. Councillor Butler.
A lot of questions. A lot of them have been answered, but I still got a few. First of all, I think before you can move forward, history is a great thing. Always look back at to see where we came from. So in a little bit further back, but 1997, between Moncton, Riverview, and Dieppe, we had 180 police officers. Moncton, Riverview, Dieppe. The RCMP looked after Riverview then. I think they had a 70-30 split, actually. And now it's to 90-10. So in 1998, when the RCMP came in, they came in with 127 members. So everybody said, wow, that's going to be really hard. You just lost about 50 guys, 60 guys. So they said, no, they can do it. But when you look over Canada and you look at what the RCMP, when they cop the population, every one of the detachments, they run lower than a municipal when it comes to pop. It's about 16%, according to the statistics. So we already know that they're going to be lower than usually what we have. But with that being said, we're looking at data. Riverview asked for the data for the 15 people. Dieppe asked for the data, where you got it. And here, I think everybody here tonight's asked the same thing. Where's that data that you got? Or where'd you come from? Where'd you get to these numbers? So I'll ask you a question. Listen, I think that we had a traffic department. When I was with the RCMP in 2013, there was a traffic department section. But how, if we got no data, if you just got limited data, and very limited by the sounds of it, what you were given, how did you come up with the number 10 for a traffic unit instead of maybe 4, maybe 5, maybe 6? Where did you, if you have no data, how did you come up with 10?
That was actually a recommendation from,
No, can you turn your mic on?
Yeah, just press that little button. That
was actually a recommendation. I'm not on, there we go. That was actually a recommendation from the officer in charge that to start a traffic unit, it would require a minimum of 10 for the size and complexity of this community.
Okay, so that's what, I guess that's what I'm getting at, Mr. Moore. So the officer in charge says 10 if you want a traffic, right? 10 members for traffic, if you want to start one up. So you couldn't have 4, you couldn't have 3, you had to have 10 to start it up.
To truly start it up, that's what we've been told.
Okay, and superintendent's the one that told you that?
Yes.
Okay, so he tells you that, and then and you agreed with that because it come from him.
We had
So
some
that's
more
where you get your
conversation, but
data.
yes.
You get your data from the RCMP.
Yep.
Correct? Okay. So then he comes and he sends us a letter, says he needs 4. So would you not agree that then, if you agree with the 10 to start a traffic unit, would you not agree that he changed his mind and now he's giving you data that he only needs 4 instead of 15? So where does the data from the RCMP stop? And you keep going forward with it. He said 10. Now he says, no, I changed my mind. And I know I agree with you. I read it in the paper where he said, I'm glad that you came forward with your 3-year plan. But then we get a letter that says he's only going to hire 4. So you took the data from the RCMP to hire 10 for traffic. Now the RCMP is coming back and saying, no, must have been something wrong with their data. What we're going to do is just go with 4. So would you agree now that 4 is enough because that's what the RCMP has given us?
No.
So you only agree with the data that you agree with. So what I'm saying is he said 10 now, but that was data from him and you agreed 100%. But now he's saying only 4, but now you're saying, well, he can't change his mind. He said 10, so now we're going to keep to it. Do you think there was interference from us that made him change his mind? Why would he change his mind? I'm just asking you your opinion. You're the chair.
The superintendent has told us in a public meeting that he still wants 46 as compared to last year and still want that complement of officers for our police force so that we can have an adequate police force for our community.
But you read the letter that Councillor Crosman read
Yep.
and also Councillor Legier.
Yes.
And they both say that the officer in charge said they only need 4.
I don't think it says we only need 4.
But, okay, well, let's get it up to make sure. See what it says. Anybody got it right up there?
July 18th.
Yeah. I'll get it up there, Donnie, just.
Yeah, take your time.
Sorry?
Brown stop.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it says that, however, after careful consideration of current conditions and available data, there, he's going with data also, the RCMP is recommending a more measurable increase of 4 additional officers for 2026. Well, that, there ain't much clearer than that. It says, however, after careful consideration. Now they've considered what they had, what they'd given you. I agree that they gave you, let's go with 15. Kodiak RCMP is recommending a more measurable increase of 4 members for 2026. This revised recommendation balance the strategy growth with operational and fiscal realities and is rooted in the following key considerations. So then they go through the considerations. So you agree with him when he said the 10. Did you get that letter, same letter? Have you got that letter?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so you know that the commanding officer said, no, we've reconsidered, we're only going with 4. So are you disagreeing now with the RCMP? Because they wanted 15, 10 for traffic, 5 for now they're saying only 4. So I'm just kind of wondering, you got to have data from someplace. You can't take it just because you agree with this one. Data is data. If you're getting it from the RCMP and they say, no, we wanted 15, but now we're going 4. Wouldn't that be also for the CRPA to reconsider where you stand because you're getting your data from them?
The CRPA voted to approve a budget that included 15 additional police officers for 2026.
Did everyone in the everybody in the CRPA have that same letter?
Yes.
Was that actually given to them?
Yes.
Okay, but we can still go back to that. I think that we've agreed, or maybe you haven't, but I think the 3 councils have agreed that because the member from Riverview couldn't vote, some of them are not even recognizing that vote. Riverview is not recognizing it. Dieppe, I think, also said they weren't recognizing that vote. It's not, I'm not asking your opinion. I'm just making a statement that that's what they said. And I would agree also that, you know, to come back and find out that, you know, he should have been able to vote. Maybe we should have another vote. Might come out the same way. You know, you might still, but what I'm saying is that what we're trying to do is go with data, because that's what our letter said when it went to you guys, that we need data. The RCMP says their data is that they need 4. So I don't know where you would get the data that they need 15. I have no idea.
It's based on a PwC report from last year that included a workload analysis, something that was one of the primary recommendations of the Perivale and Taylor report was to perform that workload analysis. And it determined last year that we were short 46 police officers. We haven't gotten smaller as a community since that report last year.
No,
So,
but that's not the end all neither, that report. That's only a report from a consultant. Right?
yep, but
People that are in the field every year, every day is the RCMP. You know, I would feel more if the RCMP were asking that instead of consultant. Consultant can look at it and say, yeah, you know, the measurements are here. But if you go across Canada, I just said a few minutes ago that across Canada, wherever the RCMP are, their population to cop to population is low. It's about 16% lower than any place else where municipal. So as you already know, we should be 16% just to keep average with the RCMP across. So, you know, it's here and there. So the next one I'm going to, Mr. Moore, is when we talk about, and maybe Chuck or maybe the superintendent can mention this, it says there's 14 here now, but but really, how many are here? There's some coming. Do we know how many's coming? Because you get transferred, as we all know, you got to sell your house. There's a lot of things go before they get here. So how many are actually here right now? Want to wait till tomorrow or somebody talk now? Yep, got to get back up.
Good afternoon again. Councillor Butler, I'll have that answer for you tomorrow. Because there's 14 positions have been filled, which means either people have been identified, they're already here, or are on the way. There's only 3 that are outstanding where somebody hasn't been identified.
So I guess
But the
what I'm-
actual who is physically at Kodiak reporting every day, I'll have that answer for you tomorrow.
So you don't have it tonight.
I think it's 11 out of the 14 because there's 1 officer from Shediac, there's 2 from Nova Scotia that are inbound through transfers. But I'll have that information.
11 from 17, you mean?
Pardon me?
11 from 17.
Correct.
Yeah, you said 14, but it's 11.
There's 14 positions filled, Councillor Butler.
Yeah, but they're not here.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying. So if they're not here, they're not, to me, when we're talking about members on the street, they're not filled.
Absolutely.
We're just asking about how many are on the street filled. There's 11. So that still means.
I believe it's 11, yes.
Okay,
I don't want you to quote
no.
exactly, just like the previous comment to Councillor.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to quote you. Nope.
No,
I wouldn't
absolutely.
do that.
I just want to make sure that we give the true information and give exact numbers.
Yep.
That's why I said I'd gladly bring that information to you
Yep.
tomorrow.
Well, is there something that I said that wasn't correct so far?
Well, if you may, Madame la Mairesse par intérim, there's a difference between recommend and need. So Kodiak RCMP recommended 4 additional members for 2026. Nowhere did it say that that's how many we need. Because I stand by my original comments that Kodiak RCMP needs additional investment. And I still stand by 46 new members that came out of the study in 2024. However, what's included in that document is our recommendation, is that we recommend for all the reasons that are elaborated on the letter, that's what we're recommending for 2024. It has nothing to do with need.
Well, I don't think I used need. I read it verbatim what was sent to us. And it says, however.
We'll agree to
after-
disagree, Councillor Butler.
Well, did you send this?
Absolutely.
Then, so let me read and then people can understand it says, however, after careful consideration of the current conditions and available data, Kodiak RCMP, who you're in charge of, is recommending a more measurable increase of 4 officers for 2026. I never used the word need. I read it verbatim.
Oh, you said need several times, Councillor Butler.
Wow. Okay, we'll go over the tape.
It's okay.
Yeah. I'm glad you made the tape. All right, thank you. I don't need you no more.
Thank you.
Okay. So then we get back to, and it says there's a number of things in the New Brunswick Police Act, which are old, as you well are aware. The New Brunswick Police Act states that that the minister may consider this. Doesn't say shall. So when you send a report or you're going to have an investigation or anything to the minister, it says may. Doesn't say that they will do it. And it's also when we talk about, let's find it here, Mr. Moore, if you just give me a second. When we go back to data, in the New Brunswick Police Act, it says an adequate police force. And they say that the very first. And then there's no definition when you read all through it about an adequate police force.
That's consistent right across the country, unfortunately.
I agree.
Yeah.
So when we talk about adequate police force, we go back to that we need data to determine if we have an adequate police force. Again, you have mentioned about being adequate. So do we have an adequate police force?
The CRPA does not feel we do right now.
Okay.
No.
So again, I'll ask you, where did you get the data for that? Don't use Perryville and Taylor because like that thing's 3-4 years old now.
Right. So last year, PwC worked with Kodiak RCMP. They're experts in putting together, worldwide experts, putting together workload analysis on police forces in communities, and their data suggested the low end number actually was 46.
So
There was a higher end number as well, but
in their report, did you use the word adequate?
I don't have the report in front of me. So, and there's nothing I'm allowed to.
So
Oh.
we can't see that report?
No, you cannot.
Who sees it?
The RCMP has the full report. The CRPA got a slimmed down version of it, kind of a Reader's Digest version.
So you don't remember
Stuff-
the word adequate being used?
I don't remember, no. It was probably about 30 pages of stuff that we got in that report.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. That's enough for me tonight. Thank you.
Merci, Conseiller Butler. Are there any other questions? I don't see any.
Can I read a
Yes,
statement, please?
Please.
Your Worship and Councillors, before I conclude this evening, I would like to share a personal decision. Over the past several weeks, public discussion around the CRPA, including our budget process, officer resourcing, and recent commentary regarding my role as chair has, in my view, begun to overshadow the real purpose of the police authority. The Kodiak Regional Police Authority was created to provide independent civilian oversight of policing in Greater Moncton, ensuring transparency, good governance, and above all, public trust. That mission is bigger than any one person and certainly bigger than the chair of the police authority. While I've always done my best to lead with integrity, openness, and respect for the process outlined in the Police Act, I recognize that the focus on me in recent weeks has become a distraction. And so this evening, I've made the decision to step down as chair of the CRPA. This is not a decision I take lightly. It reflects my belief that leadership sometimes means knowing when to step aside so that others can refocus on what matters, building the strongest oversight model possible and ensuring the people of this region continue to receive effective, accountable policing. I am proud of the work we have done to raise the profile of the CRPA in the last number of years and building on the great work of all of my predecessors to build a stronger, more independent oversight body and to engage in difficult but necessary conversations like this evening. I may not have always gotten everything right, but my heart has always been in the right place, and my commitment to process and transparency has never wavered. As for the recent request, there was a request you may have heard about going to the Minister of Public Safety for an independent review. I support any effort that strengthens public confidence in our governance structures. I will remain on the CRPA until my term expires, until January 2027. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, and thank you to everyone from the CRPA. Thank you. And I really hope that going forward, we'll find a way of working together. Merci. Madame la Greffière.
Next is planning matters.
Madam City Clerk.
Sarah going to the podium. It's a public hearing, amendments to previously approved plans at Bateau Street, Harper's Lane, and Main Street.
Bonsoir, Sarah.
Bonsoir. Hello.
Just wait a couple of minutes for everyone to leave the chambers. Wait. Sarah, if I may, I'll just go through the process, especially, is it Mr. McIver who's here? Yes, okay. So staff will give an overview and a presentation, and you will present the recommendation. And then the applicants will have an opportunity to speak. And do we have registered speakers for this evening, either the proponent or those who object? Do we? We do.
I believe, yes.
Okay. So they will have 5 minutes to speak. And then administration, that includes you, Sarah, will be able to respond. And then council will have an opportunity to question either the promoter or the objector. And then I will close the public hearing and we will move and second the motion and council will deliberate. Donc, with that, go ahead, Sarah.
All right. Good evening. Am I on? Yes. Okay. So this is an application to amend previously approved plans for the development of lands located at Bateau Street, Harper's Lane, and Main Street. The amendment will accommodate proposed changes to the rear portion of the approved building. So the subject site is located on the eastern edge of the downtown, and this is in Ward 1. The site has frontage on 3 public streets. That's Main Street, Bateau Street, and Harper's Lane. It is surrounded by a mix of uses and zones. So the Staples, which is located to the east, and then the Superstore to the northeast, both of those are zoned SC or suburban commercial. To the south, across Main Street, are several commercial businesses and strip malls, and those are all zoned CBD or Central Business District. And to the west is a large vacant lot that is zoned primarily CBD with 2 small sections of land that are both zoned UR for urban residential. To the north sits 3 residential homes, and those are all zoned UR, urban residential, and the subject site is currently vacant. So in 2023, the landowner successfully rezoned the land for a mixed-use development that had a 2-story podium with commercial and restaurant uses facing Main Street. Above the podium was a 30-story tower for residential units. The rear portion of the building at that time was proposed to be a 5-story building with a mix of uses at the back that included residential uses along the streetscapes with interior parking in behind those residential units on all 5 floors. The image on the right is the previously approved plan, and the image on the left is that one shows the changes the landowner is currently requesting. So after 2 years of detailed design, after their 2023 approval, actually it was, I think, January of 2024, it was determined that that originally proposed mix of uses in that back portion of the building would not actually be feasible. It was determined that in order to be able to go forward with the development, the rear portion would have to be changed to just one single use instead of a mix of uses. So for this reason, the landowner is requesting to amend those approved plans by changing that rear part of the building, that back part, into just an attached structured garage. The landowner is proposing to remain as consistent as possible with the built form that was originally approved. So both public street faces will have jogs and articulation in the wall facades. They won't be one long wall. There will be tinted windows along both sides and a large bank of windows on the northwestern side as well that you can see in the image on the left. The rear portion also provides a step back after the second floor. So that means that at street level, the facade will be 2 stories in height, and then the upper 3 floors will step back by 5 meters along the back at Harper's Lane. So it's not as visible from the street and the sidewalk. So this helps with building massing, and it also helps to reduce shadows on the surrounding streetscapes. So a shadow study was submitted to show how the building would affect the surrounding streetscapes. So the top row images are for March, June, September, and December, and that's all at 9 o'clock in the morning. The second row images are for the same months, but those are for 12 noon. And the bottom row are again those same months, but that's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The tower will cast shadow on the surrounding properties throughout the day, but the shadow does move throughout the day, so it's not like each properties are going to be in the shadow all day long. It should also be pointed out that the majority of that shadow does come from the tower, which is currently approved. The height of the rear portion of the building is consistent with what is currently approved at 5 stories. It's just the type of use in the back that is being requested, that is proposed to change with this application. So as noted, the front portion of the building is proposed to remain as originally approved, proposed and approved. The right image shows that building that faces Main Street, so that is proposed to be kept. On the left is the proposed site plan, which doesn't really change much from what was originally approved. One thing to note, though, is at the rear setback facing Harper's Lane, that should be amended to 6 meters. Right now it shows 2, that it will be amended to 6 meters, and that is a condition in the proposed recommendation. So the revised number of residential units is 273, and that's down from the original 288. And the revised number of parking stalls is 411, and that is up from the original 258. So this application does meet several municipal plan policies. It helps to increase the residential population in the downtown. It also helps to reduce surface parking needs by providing underground and structured parking with the development. So again, as noted, that original 2023 development has already been approved with that podium and the commercial use and the residential tower above that faces Main Street. What is being requested at this time is just to amend that rear portion of the development to just house a parking garage rather than the mixed-use building that was originally proposed. So in terms of a recommendation, it's recommended that Moncton City Council approve the zoning bylaw amendment, Z 22253, and Schedule A53. And the amendment, if approved, should be subject to a resolution with a number of conditions, which are the same conditions that were approved in 2023, with that addition of the last condition about the rear yard setback being 6 meters. So in terms of public feedback, one letter of objection was received from the public, and we have also received one letter of support from the public from a business owner of a nearby property. The main point of objection from that objection letter, and I believe the objector is here this evening to speak to it, but it does relate to the location of the garage entrance on the north side off of Harper's Lane and the associated traffic that would be associated with that garage door in that area. So the landowner was asked if it was possible to remove that garage door from the north side and relocate it on the other side. So one important thing to note is that there are 2 garage doors. One is on the north side, but one is also located on the west side. And so the landowner has confirmed that the intent is that on the north side garage, that garage door, that would only be for the tenants in the building. The west side, which would be off of Bateau Street, that it would be intended for the commercial use and anybody else using the site. So the traffic will be dispersed. It's not like all vehicles will only be able to use that northern side. And when I looked at the floor plans, they are still revising them to some degree, but it looks like there's a good chance that all floors will be accessed from both doors. So it could be very well that a lot of people will just use the Bateau Street as opposed to going up to Harper's Lane anyway. So I just wanted to put that out there. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Is the applicant here this evening?
They were going to try to hope to be here, but it doesn't look like they managed to get here.
And we do, Madame Lagreffière, do we have some registered speakers?
Yes, if there's any proponents, they would go first.
Pardon me?
If there's any proponents to the project, they would come forward first. You're a proponent or you're an objector? Okay, 1 second. I don't see anybody coming forward, so we do have one objector that we received, and that is Mr. McIver, and you will have 5 minutes.
I kind of object to be calling it an objector. It's really a constructive criticism. And thank you for the update on the doors. I'm glad to hear there's a north and a west door. I guess my objection to this is a change there was residential before and they said, no, we can't do anything now. Now it's changed to a parking garage. Parking garage changes the whole concept to me. So if they can use the west, it's closer to the building, use the west. You don't need a door there. I lived in Toronto with a building, and with those tight turns, everybody coming up that building and going down, honk, honk, and their door. Imagine that 24 hours a day. I can't stop people coming. You can't use that entrance between, 11 at night till 7 in the morning. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. Now, that is a lane that I'm on. Harper's Lane is not really a street. I did send some photographs of the street. It was an old wagon lane, and right now the sidewalks, the utility poles all along that street are actually in the road. They're not behind the sidewalks. They're actually in the road. So the street is smaller than it should be. I think aesthetically, it would be better placed if they could move it and have a parkette there and just use the west side. We experienced what construction and what traffic would be like on that street with the construction that occurred with the city in August, September, and October, the delayed construction. We couldn't open our windows, dirt, dust, noise. I was shocked to find out that when I objected and phoned the city about noise issues, the city doesn't follow their own bylaws. So 5 a.m., well, 20 to 5, beep, 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 beep. Guy's loading a dump truck. I went out, said, excuse me, what are you doing? It's like 7 o'clock is the, it's 7 o'clock. No, sir, we're with the city. We don't care. So, and I phoned the city. The planning guy sent me a note and said, yeah, we don't pay attention. We can go 24 hours because we want to get it done. So there's some concern that we're going to get dust, dirt, noise, lights. My bedrooms and my living room face that street. So streets coming off of it used to be Harper's Road. It's now name changed. I'm sorry, I don't know. Plateau. Okay, sorry. Any of those cars coming there or through are going to be hitting the residents with their lights and noise. I got my house, their siding's still a little bit dirty from what we already experienced. So I know it's not coming. And I'm not happy about noise or added traffic to that street. It's a lane. The sidewalks are a little crummy, but they're usable, but most people walk down the middle of that street. Most traffic is only limited to us, but with the dump trucks, they were speeding down there. I had complaints from my neighbor. No, they're just whizzing down. They're not looking. Like my wife came out of was coming out of my parking spot and almost got creamed by a dump truck. So there are concerns about traffic volume, density. A lot of people use that walkway. It's not just a dead-end street. There's a considerable walkway. And so a lot of walkway use, wheelchair use. I've seen it in the winter. There was about 4 of us had to help a guy with a wheelchair. Guy, you should go around. But I've seen motorcycles go up and down that. Today, there was a motorcycle that whizzed up there. So it's really a through laneway, and there is a lot of pedestrian traffic. I would feel better if there was no northern exit. Also, the exit, a little bit of self-interest. So from me to Paulette is about the distance from me to the where the garage is going to be. The lane is not a full road. The width is not there. So I guess I would like to see it reworked, and that's why I'm objecting, and I would ask council to at least have them rework it. I'm not sure that this was fully thought out. It certainly didn't take into concern the neighbors. I agree, we're only 3 houses now, but we've been there. I've been there since 2017. I think we have a right to have quiet. We have the right to enjoy our property, and I think that using just the west side is an alternate decision that the company Icon should use. And like I said, they can change it up a bit. I don't mind a little parquet there, a little green buffer, but I don't really want traffic coming in and out or lights. I'm an old guy, I'm retired. I don't like getting up at 6 in the morning when I don't have to. Right now it happens when Farrell comes to Staples, and I've talked to them twice, and I talked to the bylaw people, but they come at between 6 and 6:30. Now, I thought the bylaw was 7, so I called them and talked to them. I'm a reasonable guy. Guys, you got to do business. Please, just delay till 7 o'clock. I'm an old guy. I like to sleep in a little bit.
Thank you.
Next day,
Your
6 o'clock.
5 minutes
So
are
anyways, I ask that you vote against.
Thank you so much for expressing your concerns. We appreciate that. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you for listening. Thanks.
Sarah, do you have any more comments to add with regards to the concerns?
Nothing specific necessarily. I did ask the landowner how possible it would be to be able to just remove that door to the north. In their plans, he said it would be impossible. He said it is needed. The idea is to keep the two driveways separate. And I believe, and this is where I believe you can access all floors from both driveways, but I'm not 100% sure on that. They are still redesigning. So ideally, though, the traffic is dispersed. So it's not like all 400 stalls are coming off of Harper's Lane. There would be some level of disbursement coming from both sides.
Thank you. Council, do you have questions for the objector, the administration, or the proponent? Conseiller Bourgeois.
Merci, Madame la Maire. I tend to agree with the concern. Um, some 20 years ago, our family was living on Ralph Street, just beside Moncton High. And the closest grocery store was the Superstore. So I used to walk from basically Moncton High along Mountain Road, King Street, and then I take Harper Lane. And it goes like there's pedestrian access to the back of the Superstore. And if anybody's ever, well, you got photographs, but it's the weirdest street in the city of Moncton. Telephone poles on the street. I'm not sure if it's legally on the street or if it's NB Power land or private land, but you could drive a car and hit a telephone pole without leaving the street. So it's that odd of a street. I'm just wondering, I'm not sure if it's actually a planning issue or an engineering issue as to how for so many years we have had that street. I'm not sure who can answer that. It looks like a 200-year-old street because it's mostly almost a pedestrian street. It's wide enough for a horse and buggy, but that's about it. So two-way traffic, I can understand. People probably drive over the sidewalk if they meet another car. So I'm not sure if it's a planning issue question, but I am also concerned about the potential volume of traffic. So I guess it's a two-part question. One is, did we not do a traffic study when we adopted this project in the first place? And does the change proposed here have new findings or a different analysis of the traffic study? Or it doesn't change anything? Have we conducted a rethink based on this change?
Thank you for the question, Conseiller Bourgeois. For the first part, or your first question about utility poles in the sidewalks or within the right-of-way, we do have similar situations. I can think about Highfield Street behind Georges Dumont Hospital, where they were inherited that way, built that way. And of course, that's not the standards today. So whenever we're into a street reconstruction project, we would look at, if space allows it, relocating those poles or narrowing down the street so the poles don't end up in the street. There's ways around it, but definitely not definitely not our standards today, and something that we would maybe not actively look at doing, but definitely when the street is up for reconstruction, that would be definitely resolved at that point. As far as the traffic,
deuxième.
Oui.
Est-ce que ça justifie, est-ce que ce projet ici justifierait pas?
But this project, wouldn't this justify that kind of analysis, saying, oh, well, it's been working for the last century or century and a half, but now this new project is completely going to change things. I don't know how many cars a day were indicated by this traffic study. I don't know, 50, 60, 70 cars per day. I mean, this will completely change the nature of this whole lane. Well, that's a good point. There are certain cases in which development did accelerate the reconstruction of certain streets. For example, Wesley Street, where we rebuilt it because there was going to be a renewal project. But sometimes, yeah, a new development project can lead to an earlier reconstruction. And of course, this neighborhood wasn't really in our focus for the next couple of years, but I must admit that it is something that we're going to have to look at in our capital plans. Now, in terms of the traffic study was conducted using the original plan, and we were considering between 70 and 80 vehicles an hour. I think, let me refer to my notes.
Oui, donc on estimait environ 4.
So we estimated about 80 vehicles per hour in the morning and 90 vehicles per hour in the afternoon. So it's 1 or 2 a minute. So that's a very big change for a roadway such as Harper's Lane. And so there are only 3 houses on that street currently. So that's going to change the traffic. But that level of vehicle is a normal one for a residential street. There are all sorts of other streets in the city that have the same volume. So yes, there might be 200 or 278 units, but if you look at different neighborhoods, you can see that you have that same density in single family and two, multifamily dwellings. So, but it's still a big change for Harper Lane, and it's a question of capacity. I think that in terms of the infrastructure, it's sufficient. But even for a tiny little street like this with these telephone poles, that would be a normal level of traffic. It's the normal in terms of our guidelines, if you will, for subdivisions. The number of vehicles per route can be up to 2,000 vehicles per day in a residential zone. Of course, a dead-end street is different, but this is considered a residential street. It's not the best, I agree. It's not the best infrastructure, but it does remain a residential street and it can accommodate that level of traffic. Well, I don't agree, but I appreciate your answer. We're about to prepare. How shall I say this? We're going to be creating problems here, and I'm afraid that we're going to create problems. But my next question is that we know that this is coming for the last 2 years, and now these changes don't really have major consequences on the traffic. But when we looked at this 2 years ago, did we write it down somewhere that Harper's Lane in our capital plans, Harper's Lane improvement in order to accommodate these additional vehicles? Well, no, not officially. Oh, I could hear something. This is what it is. Sorry, but yeah, thank you. Yeah, there was an echo here. So not officially, no. Harper Street was not added to our projects directly. It wasn't one of our projects, and we don't have our full 5-year program established yet. But so we do have a flexibility, but we've already done some renewal projects because we were expecting developments. I talked about Wellesley, the same thing for Cameron, and the development never came. So I think we really have to focus on the streets that need this infrastructure that needs to be renewed. Yes, a development might have an impact, but until the development is official, I think we have to make sure, we have to be very careful where we invest, because we've had these proposed developments in the past and they've never seen the light of day. Okay, well then I would make another suggestion. If we go forward with this project and the construction starts next year, let's say, well then in 1 year in the new budget process with the new council, and we could say, okay, we've talked about it, we need to improve Harper's Lane, we'll add it to our capital infrastructure plan, and so that we could rebuild this street by the next year so that it is up to modern standards. If it no longer meets today's standards, well then, but while they're transforming that part of the city, let's transform that lane as well. But no problem, I will propose it this year for next year, or maybe next year somebody else will propose it. But thank you very much for the information. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you. Councillor Légère.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Probably Sarah. With respect to the doors, garage doors, I kind of understand but I'm wondering if indeed both doors give access to all the floors. Once that's clarified, what would, and it's too bad the proponent isn't here because it makes it very, I mean, when you've got a project this large, it would be nice to have some of those questions answered. But in any event, what would stop having the door that is on Harper's Lane restricted from 11 p.m. to 7 p.m. 7 a.m. and then or 8 a.m. And that would require everybody to exit on the other side, the other door, if indeed they're all connected. And I've seen that in other parking garages. They do it more so for control and security. So I think that would be a compromise, understanding that it probably is complex to try to change it. And there might be a requirement that there be a second door accessible because of the sheer nature of the size of 411 parking spaces. So, you know, it would have been nice to have that answer. So hopefully, maybe that is something that they can answer. What led you, if I may ask, to thinking that that they're going to be connected versus they're going to be separate?
So when looking at the floor plans, the arrows show that there's sort of what looks to be at grade circulation within each floor, but then there's a different set of arrows that show they're thinner, and they show two locations as well. But they show it, you can see on the basement level, they only have it in one location. So like you'd go down, but then you'd circulate to come back up again on the other side. Each of the floors have those same arrows. And so it looks like chances are you can get up and down from both floors, but those are sort of floor plan details that I don't want to confirm because
No.
it's,
Okay.
yeah.
And that's understandable. I think I'm hoping that the likelihood is yes, that is the case because of the size. I wouldn't expect 410 parking spaces in one door in and out.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess if that could be suggested as a possible solution for the residents and for that small street that doesn't have the infrastructure, as Councillor Bourgeois was saying, you know, with the old telephone pole, utility poles and so on. And happy to hear that, you know, there is a possibility that that road could be bumped up in terms of upgrades with the start of this project. So maybe next year in the budget deliberation, it would be, now that this project is on its way and there's, I don't know, however many floors that have been built, the city now fast tracks this particular section of Harper's Lane and make it more walkable and pedestrian friendly as the you know, the individual has mentioned. So I think that would be some way to at least bring some compromise in terms of the impact of that development. I think it's pretty exciting. It certainly scares a lot of people because it's such a large building, but I think you know, it certainly will, I think, be very much a catalyst for other development in that whole area. And so, and it would be really nice to see, you know, Harper's Lane develop into a nicer street, you know, because it is for a major conduit between the superstore and that mall, because people don't want to walk on Main Street and so on. So I think we could do something really nice, and appreciate the comments and stuff. So if you could do that, I don't know, we can't make it a condition because we don't understand, but, or could we make it a condition if they can fulfill it? If it's possible, if there are two doors, if they're interconnected, that the restriction be that, you know, from, I would say maybe 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. be limited, they not be accessible, and they have to access the other side.
Yep, I think we could add that as a condition.
Yeah.
Just to your point, if all floors are connected and if possible, the northern entrance be limited, not be permitted to be used or something between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m.
Yeah, and it would create that ability then for I guess, a commercial development to be well fitted, or the best it can be next to a residential community. So even as tiny as this is, it still is there, and it's important. All right. So when do I need to propose that amendment? I guess we'll do it when we'll look. We haven't moved the recommendation yet. So when we move the recommendation, can you perhaps give us an idea of what that should look like?
Okay.
I would appreciate it. Thank you. Merci, Madame la Mairesse.
Merci, Conseiller Léger. Are there other questions from members of council? I don't see any, so I will close the public hearing. I need a mover and a seconder. Conseiller Crossman, do you wish to move the recommendation? conseillère Leblanc, do you wish to second? Or conseiller, OK, c'est bon, merci. Donc, c'est quoi là? Go ahead, conseiller Crossman.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, Sarah, I'll move the recommendation. It has been seconded, but I'll make that amendment that was discussed by Councillor Legier and Councillor Boudreau. So how would you like to see that wording put forward on the recommendation?
And I'm looking at Shelley. That if all floors of the parking structure are connected or
That are connected through one main door?
through one main door, are accessible by both doors? If all floors of the parking structure are accessible by both doors.
That the north door be restricted between 8 PM, or sorry, 11 PM and 7 AM?
The only other thing I would put in there is something about safety. If
Yeah.
the fire marshal or someone says that they can't do that, then, so some sort of caveat that allows, and if acceptable or if approved or something, acceptable? Feasible, if feasible.
If feasible by the fire and safety
Yep.
inspection. Okay.
Yeah.
So moved then.
Thank you, conseiller Crossman. Conseiller Leblanc, do you agree with the changes? T'es d'accord? Oui, c'est beau. Donc, Shelley, would you bring up the motion, please? Sarah,
The last sentence, can you read it? Can you see it up? I can read it. I know, it's small. Can't work magic.
That restriction
For
for
parking garage doors along Harper's Lane be restricted to 11 PM to 7 PM and that it be feasible through fire safety. This is to occur if there is access to both entrances. I can rewrite it after to have the same meaning, but rewrite it to,
Yeah. Yep.
okay. Oh, sorry, 7 AM. I will correct that.
Mhm.
So we have a motion that.
We change that to 7 AM?
Yep. So we have a motion on the floor. We have a mover and a seconder. We'll go to, is it electronic vote, Madame la Greffière? C'est beau. It's changed. Thank you. Motion carried unanimously. Merci. Madame la Greffière.
Madam City Clerk.
Of council, les exposés des membres du conseil. Conseiller Crossman.
Councillor Crossman.
Conseiller Crossman.
Councillor Crossman.
For a number of months now, I've been asking for a list of all city-funded nonprofits and how Moncton's tax dollars are being spent. A list of all nonprofits shown on a map would be nice. A list of all board members for each nonprofit, a number of paid staff members for each nonprofit, number of clients registered and served by each nonprofit, mission statement for each nonprofit, list of nonprofits that offer mental health, addiction services, transitional housing, which we all know that is missing in Moncton, and a list of the services that each nonprofit offers. I know you're working on this with Isabel, I do believe. I was expecting this information before the budget, and it is not in the budget, so it's going to be a very difficult week coming unless we can get this information. I'd really like to know where the funding is going, especially with the state of the city at this point. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. So there are about 30 organizations that we have communicated with. There's some information that we don't have at hand, so we've had to reach out to those organizations. We've received 19 responses thus far. And so we have those 19 on in a table that we've tried to make as clear as possible. We also have the board members, everything. There is some information that we needed to get from them that we didn't have here in hand. We're working with finance to get the funding grants that we're giving to these organizations. So I would say with the information that we have, we're probably 90%. With the ones who haven't given us their information, we can either give you what we have, but there will be some gaps until they send it to us.
Councillor Crossman.
Thank you, Isabel. I appreciate that. My only concern is it is part of the budget that we will be discussing. So I expected all that information in the budget rather than a very trimmed down overall view of the grant system. So I was kind of hoping to have that so we could debate that moving forward. But obviously it's not going to be ready in time. So, or maybe it will be. I'm just wondering because if we're issuing grants, we should know these nonprofits. We should know what they're doing and where the money's going. And
thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Crossman. On the pure budget process, I can't necessarily speak about the boards of the different organizations or so on. But in 2023, if you recall, Council had approved that the third-party committee be created to basically analyze all the operational grants. It has two sitting council members on that committee, Councillor Kingston and Councillor Steves. And the intentions with that is that that information is coming to the December the 15th council meeting, which will have all of the information of how many individuals were served by the grants, what organizations received the grants, and all of that good information. So that was the decision of council. Last year, if you recall as well, during the grants process, again, what we do during budget is we provide the recommended spend per year, which then goes to the committee for those major and multi-year grants. That third-party committee basically reassesses the grants through a scoring matrix or so on, and that's how they allocate the grants. Any missing component of that, and we've done some, for example, for the Legions or things like that, that do not necessarily receive the grant as part of that recommended process, and it's still the wish of council. Council has used the council contingency in the past to top it up. So that's why in the budget documentation, that it's not as you would have seen in, for example, in year 2020 or so on, where every grant process was coming. Every grant to every organization was there and part of the budget process. It's now being allocated to that third-party group.
okay, it's just, it can go both ways, right? It can go an increase in granting, or it could go a decrease in granting, depending on the situation within the community, right? So, like, for instance, the federal government just announced that Ensemble was getting, I think, close to $500,000, right? So I'm curious to know how we would respond to that, right? You know, where does our funding now end up? They're getting $500,000 more. What does the city of Moncton do based on the situation going on in and around Ensemble? Again, community safety.
Yep. No, that's a good question. The way that it works with major and multi-year grants is, again, they apply. They are granted a grant for numerous years. For I believe it's 3 to 5 years. The reason for that is for the city, it was really about ensuring those organizations had funding in the longer term rather than on a one-year basis to be able to do that. So, but your question is a good one. It's one that certainly when the committee is presenting the results in the December meeting, that those are questions that could be asked, and it could also impact the future request. The grant you're talking about, I don't necessarily have all the information, but again, questions that the committee would ask. I'm not part of the committee, but is that just a one-time grant? You know what I mean? Or is it new funding that will be there forever? If it's new funding that would be there forever, then it could potentially change the request of that organization coming forward. So that's what I can provide as of now.
Okay, I'll sit and wait. Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you wish to speak, Monsieur CAO?
That's a loaded question. Councillor Crosman, if you would like to have the incomplete information, we can give you the incomplete information as soon as we can get back up to our computers. The big question is, again, knowing full well that there are some gaps in that information, it is not complete. So, you know, if it's your will and will of council to get all the information that we have to date, we can definitely provide that.
So are you okay with that, Councillor Crossman?
I guess my only response would be any information would be well taken for me. I'd really appreciate it. I'm just struggling with the fact that if we're supporting all these nonprofits, that we wouldn't already have this in a database somewhere. That's my biggest push for this. That's all. And I'll take what you have now and I'll take what you get come December.
Merci, Conseiller Bourgeois.
Isabelle. No? Okay, never mind.
Merci, Madame la Maire. Deux commentaires.
Councillor Bourgeois, thank you, Your Worship. I have two comments. I think it's important to inform citizens and organizations that have social inclusion projects. We are, the City of Moncton, that is, through the Social Inclusion Committee, is offering micro grants, so from $1,000 to $2,000, to organize socially inclusive events. So you can send an application either to myself, daniel.bourgeois@moncton.ca, or at to paul.richard@moncton.ca. We both sit on the committee and will forward your email to the people in charge of processing the grants. But the event could be held by the end of the year or next year.
Our $500 in losses at the hands of petty thieves. We had twice lost parking change left in our unlocked cars, then a patio table from our back deck, followed by a kitchen faucet and household goods left in our car. This time they stole Halloween decorations in our yard. Our losses are more than some, but less than most. The crime wave began several years ago and will continue. And maybe I'm naive, but I have hope we can resolve this. Last month, Council finally decided to tackle crime. I say finally because some members have tried in vain on several occasions since 2021 to convince Council to adopt and implement a plan to reduce and prevent crime. We've done bits and pieces here and there, but never a holistic plan focused on crime. Every time the majority voted against our motions, but at least we tried some things. But now, thankfully, the majority decided to establish a committee to draft a 3-year crime reduction and prevention plan. Councillors Légère, LeBlanc, Butler, and I sit on it. We have met a couple of times, and we will continue to meet until we submit our draft plan to Council in probably 4 months. The decision of Council was not covered by the media, probably because it was taken during a committee of the whole meeting. But it was ratified during our last public meeting, but I cannot explain why the media would not cover that. It is a very important issue. We will collect and analyze the crime statistics and study what other cities are doing, then outline the results we should target, as well as the solutions that will achieve them. Thank you for your consideration. Merci, Madame la Maire.
Merci, Conseiller Bourgeois. There are no other statements. by-
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Bourgeois. Madam City Clerk.
Des comités et réunions à huis clos. This evening, there's recommendations from the Committee of the Whole of October 27th. Moncton City Council at its Committee of the Whole meeting of October 27th is recommending the following: that Moncton City Council adopt the following priority areas for the strategic plan: deliver effective protective services, support and embrace culture, heritage, and bilingualism, reduce net greenhouse gas emissions and other forms of air pollution, create a safe environment, attract and retain business and investment, invest in employees and innovation. In December 2024, Council adopted the city's strategic plan, vision, mission, and core values, pillars, goals, and strategic objectives. A working session with Council and the leadership team was held on August 19, 2025, at which time Council identified 6 areas as its main strategic plan priorities. It is important to note that administration will continue to deliver on the fulsome strategic plan. However, Council's identified priorities will be given extra attention where competing interest or resources may require alignment to priority items.
Merci, Madame la Greffière. Conseiller Léger, do you wish to move the recommendation? Oui. Donc,
Thank you, Madam City Clerk.
seconded. Are there questions on the motion? I don't see any questions, so we can go to the vote. Electronic. Thank you. Motion carried unanimously. Merci.
Next is reports from administration, the rapport de l'administration, and this evening it's a presentation of the BIA levy budget. Patrick Richard, Executive Director at DMCI, is here to give the presentation. And for Council's information, the motion that's before Council today is that Moncton City Council authorize the City Clerk to give notice, which is to be published in accordance with the requirements contained in the Business Improvement Areas Act, RSNB 2014, C-102 on the 2026 budget, 2025 budget submitted by Downtown Moncton, Inc., and that the bylaw A1002.25 be given first reading.
Bonsoir, Patrick.
Good evening, Patrick. Please press the button to turn your mic on. Then you can have the floor. Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here tonight to talk about the 2026 proposed budget for DMCI.
Where businesses flourish, residents thrive, and communities continue to grow as a vibrant place to live, work, and play.
Just pull up.
There we go. Tonight, I'll begin with a quick overview of who is DMCI and our 2025 highlights, then present the 2026 proposed budget, and then conclude with some time for questions. Who is DMCI? So DMCI, Downtown Moncton Centre-Ville Inc., is an independent, non-for-profit business organization created under the New Brunswick Business Improvement Areas Act. Our mandate is simple: to make downtown a better place to do business, to live, and to enjoy. We are funded by non-residential property owners, our members, and guided by a volunteer board of directors representing our downtown's diverse stakeholders. I'd like to sincerely thank Councillor Charles Léger and Luc Babidon, Director of Economic Development, for their continued service on our board. Merci sincèrement pour votre engagement envers notre centre-ville.
I'd like to thank you sincerely for your commitment.
Six-person Enviro team that keeps our downtown clean and welcoming. Each summer, we welcome students through SEED, and through the Canadian Summer Jobs Program, as well as individuals on placement through the CCRW, the Canadian Council on Rehabilitation of Workers. A quick economic snapshot of the Downtown Moncton BIA. Downtown Moncton holds a large share of businesses in the Greater Moncton CMA. The Downtown BIA is home to over 1 in every 5 business within the CMA, despite accounting for less than 1% of the CMA area. There are 107 businesses per square kilometer compared to only 2 per square kilometer across the Greater Moncton CMA. Downtown Moncton also generates a large share of the economic value of the CMA. DMCI members alone account for 27% of all GDP generated in the CMA, generating an estimated $2.7 billion for the provincial economy. Notre centre-ville est véritablement le cœur économique du Grand Moncton.
It is the spine of economic activity in the Greater Moncton area.
Resilient membership, which strengthens our engagement and retention. Pillar number 2 is fostering a vibrant downtown, so ensuring year-round vitality, safety, and inclusivity. And pillar number 3 is sustainable growth, strong governance, partnerships, and long-term resilience. Under the first pillar, which is active and resilient membership, our focus is to increase and retain members and to build engagement across the downtown business community. Under the first priority, which is increase and retain members, we continue to welcome new businesses to the downtown core and to promote local spending through our Downtown Moncton gift card program, keeping those dollars circulating locally. To date, we've sold over $44,000 in Downtown Moncton gift cards this year, keeping in mind that we typically sell about 75% of our sales in November and December. We also have a 20% off sale happening November 14th, which we most definitely will sell out. In 2025, we were thrilled to see a wave of entrepreneurial energy and new openings across the BIA. So this included Philomena Cafe on St. George Street, a bright, modern addition to the growing cafe culture downtown. Dandelion Cafe, located in the Crown Plaza block, a warm, creative space that quickly is building a loyal following. Saphir Hammam, the first authentic hammam spa in Atlantic Canada, adding a truly unique wellness destination to our downtown. Tony's on Botsford, a long-awaited and beloved local favorite making its downtown debut. Jemmy Gourmet, now part of the Three Sister block, offering fine food, pastries, and drinks. Working Class Skate Shop and Barbershop, celebrating 10 years in business and relocating in the iconic IOOB building with a refreshed storefront and renewed energy. The Bunker expanded with a sister business next door, the Pit Stop, featuring a state-of-the-art racing simulators, large screen to watch sports, and great food and drinks. Cafe X, who opened in the Peace Center, reached over 100,000 views on our social media, creating a viral buzz for the BIA. Parkour Athletics, bringing a high-end running and performance retail concept to Waterloo Street. Mirchi Tandoor, which opened in the former Taj Mahal space, reimagining Indian cuisine with a contemporary flair. And finally, Art Adventure on Main Street, an inspired new concept blending coffee, creativity, and community in one beautiful space. Ces nouvelles entreprises, entre autres, que je n'ai pas eu la chance de mentionner.
And there are a number of businesses that I haven't had the chance to mention, but they're all adding to the dynamic nature of the downtown area.
Engagement with our members. Our Facade and Development and Safety Grant continues to be one of our most impactful initiatives, funding storefront upgrades, cameras, and lighting. En 12 ans, plus de $300,000 ont été investis.
Over $300,000 were invested in the last few years to improve safety in the downtown area.
Vibrant downtown. And this focuses on animating the downtown year-round and ensuring a clean and safe downtown. On the animating the downtown year-round. In 2025, DMCI supported as well as promoted more than 30 downtown events, contributing over $50,000 in combined cash, gift cards, and in-kind support. Highlights include the New Year's Eve Family Fun Fest, which brought tens of thousands of Monctonians to the downtown, also that brought tens of thousands of Monctonians to downtown. Also, the 25th anniversary of the Atlantic Nationals, which also had a huge draw downtown. And don't forget our very own Moncton Busker Festival, which welcomed more than 20,000 spectators in its third year. And finally, our Accent and Visual Arts Initiative, which featured 57 unique pieces, artwork pieces by 33 local artists, transforming vacant storefronts into outdoor galleries. And still on the animating downtown year-round, our holiday lights decor program. So this continues to bring joy each winter with installations you've likely seen going up since Saturday. Yes, we started November 1st. We are all hands on deck at the moment. This year's installations will feature new pieces, thanks to funding from the City of Moncton and the Province of New Brunswick through the Downtown New Brunswick Heart of the Communities Fund. These new installations will include a brand new winter installation at the Avenir Center. Both the oval will benefit, as well as the Main Street facade of the Avenir Center. City Hall will be getting a new show-stopping lights. The pedway between the Blue Cross Center and City Hall as well. And finally, Board Park will be getting a new light installation. Stay tuned for those installations as we plan to go live in mid-November after Remembrance Day, of course. Still under the fostering a vibrant downtown pillar, our strategic priority is to ensure a clean and safe downtown. Our Enviro team is now a cornerstone of our downtown operations. With your support, the program has now grown into a model partnership between DMCI, the city, and community organizations, and I will say is the envy of most downtown associations across New Brunswick. This low barrier employment initiative not only keeps downtown clean, but also provides life-changing opportunities. Several of our staff members are former clients of Harvest House and are now housed, employed, and off social assistance. Un vrai succès. In 2025 to date, the team has removed nearly 150,000 pounds of waste, over 500 pounds daily out of the downtown, and responded to nearly 800 cleanup calls in the first 10 months of 2025. We've also added the public waste receptacle cleaning service to our Enviro daily duties and have changed over 11,000 public waste receptacles in the BIA since February. Merci au conseil municipal et au personnel de la ville.
Thank you to council and to the city for supporting this initiative, which is essential to the city.
The Chamber of Commerce, Destination Moncton Dieppe, and numerous social agencies and outreach organizations to ensure that our downtown remains safe, welcoming, and supported. Together, we advocate to all levels of government for stronger responses to issues on public safety, homelessness, and community well-being, as well as continued investment in economic revitalization. Most recently, we joined our colleagues from downtown Fredericton and uptown St. John to call for enhanced legislative tools to address the complex safety and cleanliness challenges affecting downtowns across New Brunswick. And even last week, we took that advocacy to a national level. So we met in Ottawa with members of Parliament, senators, and senior federal officials to discuss the realities we see daily on our streets, issues of public safety, lack of housing and urban infrastructure, addictions, mental health, and the toll these challenges take on our downtowns and our merchants. Ces conversations nationales et provinciales reflètent ce que nous vivons au quotidien.
These reflect what we live every day in Moncton and throughout New Brunswick and Canada, and demonstrate the importance of working together to address these.
And physical connectivity. In 2025, so on the efficient governance piece, in 2025, DMCI established 3 permanent committees at the board level. We have our governance and HR committee, our finance committee, as well as our advocacy committee, which improves our structure and accountability. On the physical connectivity front, we're building a unified downtown identity through wayfinding banners that are already installed or be taken down right now, but are there most of the year. Public realm, furniture, and seasonal decor, connecting Main Street, St. George Street, and North-South connector streets with one cohesive look and feel. I'll now talk a little bit about the 2026 proposed budget. Since 1977, commercial property owners have levied themselves and invested directly in their downtown, a model of grassroots economic development. The province collects and remits the BIA levy to DMCI, funding a large portion of our operations, programs, and beautifications projects. Our proposed 2026 budget was presented to the Finance Committee on September 10th and then approved unanimously by our board on September 23rd. The levy rate will remain at 16 cents per $100 of assessment. And our 2026 assessment base is of 607 million, which is a 1% decrease from 2025. This is most likely due to the fact of the freeze in provincial assessments and then probably a few property adjustments. Despite the small drop, careful management and city partnerships have allowed us to maintain and even strengthen some of our service levels in 2026. The levy will be for 2026, 971,000. Under the Clean and Safe initiatives, we'll be receiving 512,000. In development initiatives, 141, and then operating a few thousand there, for a total of 1.6 million in revenue, offset by the same number in expenses. So we have 537,000 going towards our Clean and Safe initiatives, which is our downtown ambassador. Most of it goes towards the Enviro team, tools, supplies, warehousing costs. Communication marketing, 106. Development initiative, 263, which includes our facade development grant, signage, installations, repairs, benches, art projects, and so on. Operating expenses coming in at 241. Included in the 241 is our Avenir Center contribution, which I will talk to in 2 seconds. Office expenses coming in at 45,000. Salaries and benefits, 445, and then finally professional fees at 15,000, for a total offsetting the revenue at 1.6. This year's 2025 contribution has been made, so there was 92,000. The check was walked over to City Hall last week, and the amount to date in total, we're at 613,600. In 2026, another 103,000 has been earmarked for our contribution, bringing our total over the 700,000 mark. Just some quick highlights. You'll note that 60% of our revenue comes from our membership. The other almost 40% comes from services rendered to the municipality. And our largest expenditures are obviously the Clean and Safe initiatives, mostly our Enviro team, as well as salaries. Both of these categories obviously directly support our frontline impact on the downtown. In closing, DMCI's budget reflects stability, collaboration, and visible results, maintains strong programming, builds on proven partnerships, and continues to position downtown Moncton as a vibrant, inclusive, and resilient urban core. Je vous remercie pour votre confiance et votre appui continu envers notre centre-ville, nos entreprises et notre communauté. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Merci beaucoup, Patrick. Excellent travail. Are there questions? We do have a motion and oui, mais je veux savoir s'il veut proposer la motion.
Who would like to move the motion? Yes, you'd like to move it? Okay.
It should read 2026 budget, not 2025. We will correct that.
Okay. So we'll move by Conseiller Léger, seconded by Conseiller Bourgeois. Is that correct? Okay. C'est beau. Donc, Conseiller Léger, vous avez une question?
Non, non, ça va.
Non? OK.
Ça va.
Conseiller
Merci.
Bourgeois, vous avez une question? Oh, sorry. Councillor Crossman, could you raise the microphone? Just a
Sorry. Thank you, Your Worship. Patrick, thanks for the presentation. Just one comment I will make is your communications and marketing is going from, well, revenue zero, but expenses are 106,000. So looking at some new festivals, more activity within the downtown core to celebrate, is that what we're aiming towards?
Festivals that we produce will most likely stay about what we've had in the past. So between buskers and accent program, patio fest, and our downtown art walk, we're pretty busy. A lot of the effort, a lot of the dollars are spent in our social media. So we have quite a bit of social media following. It's a race right now between Facebook and Instagram. Who's going to hit 15,000 first? So we have quite a loyal following online.
Okay, good. Great. Thank you, Your Worship.
Merci, Conseiller Bourgeois.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Maire. Merci, Patrick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Patrick, it's always a pleasure to see you. And my question will probably be to Jacques, but if you can answer, then please do. Most of your funding, 60%, comes from the property tax that we charge for you, that then we hand over to you. You don't charge it. It's Service New Brunswick does. But my question is this. Everybody, myself as a resident, the city, all of our properties, we don't only pay property tax, we pay a fee to SNB. I think it's 2% of the amount that is added. Is this 971 and 710, does that include these costs, or is it the city that pays 2% of that amount from our budget?
Merci, Conseiller Bourgeois.
Thank you, Councillor Bourgeois.
So the way it works is the commercial businesses downtown would pay that 1.9% fee on their property assessment. We also collect revenues on the properties downtown. The 16 cents that DMCI levies on the commercial properties in the downtown, it's not double paid. The businesses only pay it once, like every other businesses or resident in the city or across the province.
So when they get their property tax bill, they pay 186 to the province. They pay almost to say a little bit more than that to the city. And they also have a third line that says 0.16 that goes to DMCI?
That's right.
Oh, okay. So the businesses pay, and that the 2% is on the all three charges, and the businesses pay.
Yeah, so basically, yes. So you have your gross assessment. On that assessment, the commercial business would pay that 0.00194, which is the fee that everyone pays. They would pay, that goes to the province. They would, well, to Assessment New Brunswick for doing assessment. The 16-cent levy goes to DMCI, and the regular tax rate goes to the city of Moncton and the province because it's a commercial business.
Okay. I'll ask the question tomorrow, so heads up. What does this province charge our businesses, non-residential? How much money do they collect, and how many did they give back to the city? So a heads up on this. Merci, Patrick.
Okay.
Merci, Jacques. Merci, Madame la Maire.
Merci, Conseiller Bourgeois. Conseiller Légère.
Merci, Madame la Maire. Merci, Patrick. Just want to say thank you to you and to all the staff, because certainly the impact, well, first of all, the impact from Enviro is amazing in terms of the downtown. And you've certainly been very much the spearhead of that, and I want to thank you. The communications have been doing a great job, the website and those things, and your initiatives and what you've done in terms of events in the downtown, decorating in the downtown. I saw Ron and everyone getting ready now and so on. So again, thank you. I mean, I think it's, to me, it really shows a very successful model for downtown. And the other thing too, which is that you and your group are always open to trying to do better and trying to help. And you've created a lot of partnerships with the City of Moncton, and I think it certainly goes noticed, but it's nice to indicate that, because sometimes we don't say it enough. And again, I think your group as well, we would welcome some of the ideas that you're hearing from businesses and so on when it comes to crime, severity, prevention, things that the city can do. We don't have all of the solutions. We're open to things that are happening in terms of how to make it better. And I think what Councillor Bourgeois was mentioning is that it would be nice to have some strategic direction, some plan that says, we recognize the importance of safety, the importance of people being able to help our city grow. And so what can we do? What part does the municipality play? What part do individuals and businesses play? And what part does the RCMP and community officers and so on play? And I know that in your discussions with the other downtowns you're aware of our wanting and our ask to give community officers more powers related to under the Peace Officer Act, and I hope that that can be helpful to us in terms of if anything at all, doing a pilot for Moncton to demonstrate how that could be helpful to the RCMP working collaboratively and really able to better, I guess, to assure citizens that things are moving in the right direction. And we often are bombarded by the negativity. So just trying to put a positive on that as council around this table and others do care. It's a question now of come with your solutions and or suggestions. So, and again, I thank you and your group. Merci.
Merci.
Merci, conseiller Léger, conseiller Butler.
Thank you. Patrick, thanks very much for the presentation. I can't say enough of how much I hear about how clean the city looks nowadays. It's amazing what Ron and them do downtown. It's just, they go steady and it's amazing. When sometimes you'll see a garbage truck, but they're not so clean, but your vehicles are even clean, which is it shows that, you're really into cleaning, and that's appreciated. Where Councillor Leger and Bourgeois and myself sit on this committee for crime prevention, trying to figure out how we can make this city a little bit safer. Myself personally, I would love to sit down with you and Ron one-on-one to find out what you see day to day, because you guys are picking it up, you see where it is, where it's at, and what can happen. And they might even have some great solutions if we sit down and talk to them. So I'd really like to set that up with them, and if we could.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Merci, conseiller Butler. We do have a motion that's been moved and
Thank you, Councillor Butler.
Merci. Motion was.
Thank you.
Next, Your Worship, is reading of bylaws, lecture des arrêtés municipaux. There's one that's a first reading. It will be placed on our website for anybody to see it, or we can send it to them via mail or email. And council has given me permission to give this first reading at the last resolution. A bylaw and amendment of a bylaw relating to the approval of the budget for the downtown Moncton Centre-Ville, Inc., and to establish a special business improvement area levy in the city of Moncton, being bylaw A1002.25. This is the first reading. Arrêté par la communication de l'arrêté concernant l'approbation du budget de Downtown Moncton Centre-Ville, Inc. et l'établissement d'une contribution spéciale à la zone d'amélioration des affaires de la ville de Moncton sur arrêté A1002.25. C'est la première lecture. The next bylaw, which has been placed on our website, we've not received any objections. It is for Harper's Lane. I will need permission from council for second reading.
Moved by conseiller Richard, seconded by conseiller Steves.
Show of hands.
Oh, a show of hands.
Show of hands.
Sorry, it gets confusing with it. But unanimous. Merci.
A bylaw and amendment of the City of Moncton zoning bylaw, being bylaw Z 222.53291 Main Street, second reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté de zonage de la ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z 222.53 rue Main. C'est la deuxième lecture. I'll need permission for third reading.
Est-ce que je peux avoir quelqu'un qui veut proposer, conseiller Léger, conseiller?
Does anybody want to move? Councillor Léger, Councillor Leblanc? Seconds?
Monsieur Bourgeois.
Councillor Bourgeois? Thank you.
Carried unanimous.
A bylaw and amendment of the City of Moncton zoning bylaw being bylaw Z 222.53291 Main Street. It's the third reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté de zonage de la Ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z 222.53 rue Main. C'est la troisième lecture.
Could I have a mover and a seconder? Conseiller Léger et Conseiller Kingston. And do we vote?
No,
electronically?
we've already voted. We don't need to vote anymore.
C'est bon, merci.
Okay. There is no notice of motions or resolution. There is avis de motion et de résolution. I believe you have some appointments. Your
I
worship.
do, Madame la Greffière. We have several committees, actually. I'm going to propose to council to do these in blocks, for example, Moncton Industrial, and then Moncton Sports Wall of Fame and the Seniors Advisory Committee. And if council wishes, we could do those three together. And then we can go to the bilingual committee and council can decide how you wish to proceed with this. Is that fair? Are we okay? Okay, so the first one, Moncton Industrial Development, Benoit Doucette, reappointment, Bob Newman, reappointment, Mike Mann, reappointment, Jennifer DeWare, reappointment, Robin Drummond, reappointment. Do I do the mover? No, I do that at the end, right? Okay, c'est bon. Moncton Sports Wall of Fame, Randy Roth, reappointment for 3 years. Seniors Advisory Committee, Cicely Samuel and Jill Durapeau. So I would need a mover and a seconder for those three. Conseillère Leblanc and Conseillère Adjet. Merci, thank you. Now we will go to. We need to, is it electronic? Oui. Thank you.
One
One
nay
nay vote. Excuse me, Madame la Greffière, Councillor Butler. So the motion passes. Merci. So now we will move to the Official Language Committee. Marie-Thérèse Landry. So I need to move. I apologize for that. Monique Leblanc, Conseillère Adjet. So we go to electronic vote? Okay. Bon.
Is there any question?
Are there any, no. Are there any questions? No? We go to electronic vote. J'ai pas compris. We're going to vote each individually. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Oui.
Conseiller Richard, une question.
Oui, Conseiller Richard.
Oui, j'aimerais de la clarification, just clarification. So we're dividing.
Councillor Richard, I'd like clarification.
Procedurally?
I think that the chair decided that she wanted to proceed individually with each of these names. So that's why it's being proposed this way with her nominations.
Okay, so it's her decision, it's not decision of council. I'm just asking, not.
Yeah, I mean, with the nominations is a little bit different process than our other votes. So I think this is appropriate. If council wants to do it differently, I think somebody could propose a motion if they want to vote the whole list of names. But this is how we proceeded in the past on some of these committees.
Okay, we just did the last three all in a bunch, so I wouldn't mind seeing this all in one myself.
So you could propose that motion and it could be voted on.
Propose that we vote on the whole committee.
On the entire motion, on the entire list. Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying?
I
Okay.
shall move.
C'est bon. Merci.
Merci.
Conseiller Butler. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Just to let you know, I voted nay last time. I'll be noting nay again. Just on principle that I believe that, I don't believe in rubber stamping. These people have already been advised that they're on the committee and we're just going through a formality, so I will be voting nay on everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Conseiller Bourgeois.
Merci, Madame la Maire.
Councillor Bourgeois, thank you, Your Worship. I think it's up to council to revise its own policies. So I'd have to vote against the members, but there's nothing personal against them. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on initiating this this update of the policy. I think all of our policies need to be updated. I've been asking for that for years. It would be nice to have a calendar to ensure there are regular updates, but I think it is incumbent on council to do its due diligence like we're doing with the procedure committee. I think the members that you are appointing here, so there's nothing personal about them, but if they have expertise that would be valuable and that would justify them testifying before the council, I think it would be interesting. But I think it belongs to us to update bylaws and policies. So I will vote nay for all the nominations.
Ensemble, together, and then you will either vote, no?
So you have a motion.
Ah oui,
Because
c'est
then Nick has Nick.
c'est quoi sa motion là?
Yeah, Wait,
Okay, so do I have, oh, yeah,
can we clear the last vote, please? Okay. Now,
je suis perdue là. On n'a pas voté pour
okay, Nick.
So Councillor Richard has proposed a motion to vote all of the names together. We would need a seconder for that motion and then a vote for that motion.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Conseiller Leblanc. So we will go to a vote. Is that electronic?
You'll have to recite all the names that are on,
Before?
yes, that you're voting as a whole.
Okay. Marie-Thérèse,
Just that maybe I'm being overruled by a solicitor.
We need to vote on the motion to
Okay.
vote on all the names together.
Okay, c'est beau.
Sorry.
Donc, on the motion, is this an electronic or, oui, c'est beau. Mon ange.
Nay votes.
Okay,
There are
we
two
have
nay
two
votes.
nay votes, so the motion passed. Donc, I will begin again by reading, c'est ça là? Mais les-
So now council is voting on the entire block of names. And if that vote, well, we can talk about what happens after.
Okay, c'est beau. Thank you. So, Marie-Thérèse Landry, Yannick Fabre, Jovial Oussoudou Olachi, Brian Murphy, Nadine Lash, Annick Monda Alman, Councillor Susan Edgett, and Conseiller Charles Légère. That is the list. So we will now go to a vote. I need a mover and a seconder for the list. Conseiller Leblanc, Conseiller Kingston.
Yeah.
And now we can go to,
Question.
est-ce qu'il y a des questions? We'll go to a vote. So motion passed. We have 3 nay votes, Conseiller Butler, Conseiller Richard, and Conseiller Bourgeois. Thank you, everyone. Merci beaucoup. Could now, c'est enfin la fin de la réunion. Merci, Conseiller Richard. Merci.
And this is finally the end of the meeting. Thank you, Councillor Richard.